It's another Thursday, and of course, on a day like this, we celebrate the Yaos and the Yas and the Yawas and everyone in between. I'm one myself, and I celebrate myself together with my crew. Interestingly, my director today and my producer are both Thursday borns. So, magnificent day for us. Tiring it has been, but here we are. Good morning to you. Now, coming up shortly, as we always know, the news, right after which we'll be joined by Maxwell Lukoto, parliamentary candidate-elect for the NDC in South Tong. He'll be joining us for the news review. And then we get into sports with Mubarak Haruna. He'll be presenting this segment today. But in our big stories, Ghana is regularly praised for its stable democracy, particularly because of its largely free media and relatively peaceful elections, the transfer of power, and minimum records of citizens' protests. However, recent years and events, including growing governance crises coupled with partisanship, economic crises, youth disengagement, and corruption have led to the emergence of spontaneous youth protests and social movements in response to these crises. Well, today we engage on these matters and more Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers. He is speaking at the Star Ghana's Active Citizenship Lecture on the theme, Empowering Citizens, Enriching Nation Building, Fostering Active Citizenship for Sustainable Development in Ghana. We'll have him right here in the studio joining us with his thoughts. But also on the show, nearly 150 children of Burkinabe extraction who are asylum seekers have enrolled in a Ghanaian primary school in the Boku West district of the Upper East region. Now, this is after World Vision had provided these facilities to the schools, certain facilities to the schools. We'll expand this conversation on the AM show. But as we talk about the Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair, today we'll be hosting Virtual Security Africa, one of the sponsors for this year's event. We'll tell you how you can benefit from their discounts. As always, we'd love to hear from you. Join us with your thoughts, join us with your comments. Of course, season them and stay away from the political. Just go straight for the jugular of those matters we're going to be discussing this morning. Stay interactive. Let's do this for God and country. Up next, the news. Thank you for staying with us for the news. In our first story, state prosecutors have withdrawn charges against the 7 individuals accused of stealing money and valuable items worth millions of Ghana cedis from the home of former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Abena-Dapaah. But their freedom was short-lived as the police promptly rearrested them and slapped them with the same charges. Richard Kwejunyako of our Legal Affairs Desk now reports.
The 7 accused, namely Patience Boche, Sarah J., Benjamin Sowa, Malik Dawda, Christiana Chab, Job Pomeri, and Yahaya Somaila, were acquitted by the Circuit Court where they were facing charges related to conspiracy, theft, dishonestly receiving, and money laundering. State prosecutors, led by Assistant State Attorney Akosue Japoma Ajiman, in accordance with Section 59 of the Criminal Code, withdrew the charges. Shortly after they were released, they were rearrested and same charges were preferred against the 7 at the High Court in Accra. The case now moves from the Circuit Court to the High Court. In a related development, a new judge is likely to be assigned by the Chief Justice to preside over the application for confirmation of seizure and freezing of the property of former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Abena-Dapaah. The development has arisen because the judge who has been presiding over the case, Justice Edward Chum, is scheduled to start his vacation. The High Court judge had a warrant from the Chief Justice to sit during the legal vacation and is now due for his annual leave. The Office of the Special Prosecutor froze the bank account of Madam Cecilia Dapaah and seized some cash sums from the matrimonial home of the former minister weeks ago, but the court is yet to confirm the seizure and freezing of the property. On Wednesday, when the case was called, the judge, Justice Ejochum, invited the 2 parties to his chambers. After some 30 minutes of deliberation, the parties came back and indicated that the judge is scheduled to start his leave and the case has been adjourned to the 29th of November. The OSP had earlier written to the Chief Justice for the judge, Justice Ejuachum, to recuse himself from all its cases, a petition that was not granted by the Chief Justice. The petition by the OSP caused some adjournment of the substantive application as the parties waited for a response from the Chief Justice. Madam Cecilia Dapa, through her lawyers, complained about how the delays were causing some incalculable financial hardship to the former minister. She accused the OSP of deliberately orchestrating the delay, something she described as an affront to her right to enjoy her properties. Reporting for Joy News from the court complex, Richard Kwejonyako.
Now, the chief executive of the National Petroleum Authority, Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, wants Ghanaians to embrace the cylinder recirculation model policy to ensure safety and increase access to LPG to 50% by 2030. He says the policy would ensure the existence of robust and standard health, safety, and environmental practices in the production, marketing, and consumption of LPG. Dr. Abdul Hamid made the call at the launch of the Consumer Week celebration in Takrady in the Western region.
The Consumer Week celebration is observed each year by the National Petroleum Authority as part of the Global Consumer Service Week celebration to educate the people on their rights and responsibilities and how to safely use petroleum products. The NPA boss said LPG is a cleaner burning fuel that provides smoke-free indoor cooking and helps to reduce outdoor and urban air pollution. Unfortunately, Dr. Abdul Hamid said LPG uptake in the country was low, currently around 37%, and needed to be actively promoted.
Waton fuel amount. Odi tu uko 100 meters, 500 meters. Uka no ejina. E wose ohu ni entia. Uto fuel uka engine. Se selfa wo dia ene wose kubisa ejuma ben na MPA fo eye wo krom hantia ne koto fuel ne car engine say. Se oye ne fa wo wa aban etua won ka se omumra MPA. No petrol, consum, diesel, LPG, but if you have a disinterested citizenship, then you give politicians the opportunity to do what they want.
Deputy Minister of Energy Andrew Ejapamesa said the timing of the promotional and sensitization drive was significant given the current debate about climate change with its associated environmental and health effects.
Since the launch of the program in September 2022, 20,000 LPG cook stoves and related accessories have already been distributed to households across 9 MMDAs, thus incentivizing them to switch to the use of LPG. The timing of this promotional and sensitization drive is significant, given the current discussions on climate change with its associated environmental and health effects. Climate change places a greater responsibility on countries to adopt more environmentally sound practices to save the environment from further deterioration.
He said Ghana needs to play a leading role in discouraging any activities that hurts the environment.
It is therefore crucial for Ghana to play a leading role in discouraging any activity that has an adverse effect on the environment, and the Ministry of Energy stands ready to support the NPA and other allied institutions in this endeavor for our collective good. Currently, the world is shifting towards transitioning energy supplies from fossil fuels to renewables due to climate change concerns.
Western Regional Minister Dr. Kobna Otrida Comensa urged the public to avoid complacency.
Like we understand, when you use wood your eyes have problems, will have problems. When you use charcoal, you might have respiratory problems. And what we are saying is that the cost of losing your eye is far bigger than the cost of buying gas. So that's where you have to do the equation and balance. If you like your eyesight to go or you have respiratory problems, instead of buying gas, which will save you from all these payments. So that's where the comparison has to come in. That's where the decision has to be taken properly to make sure that you make the right choice. Because without good health, you cannot enjoy life. Yes, and money is not everything.
For Joy Business in Athalia Kwansa, Western Region.
Now, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association is asking for an enhanced training of nurses and medical professionals, enabling them to become specialists with the aim of expanding access to specialized healthcare within the nation's medical facilities. The association highlights a concerning trend where individuals with hearing impairments often receive care from general health practitioners instead of ear, nose, and throat specialists, thereby heightening the vulnerabilities faced by many patients. There's more in this report.
The World Health Organization estimates that by the year 2050, about 2.6 billion of the world's population will have some degree of hearing loss. That translates into 1 in every 10 people will have disabling hearing loss. The inadequate specialists to take care of the ears, nose and throat needs in Ghana has become concerning to the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. In a speech read on behalf of the General Secretary of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Central Regional Chairman of the association, Alfred Adi, indicated how an enhanced training will help the health delivery system.
In Ghana, most individuals with ENT diseases and injuries are seen by general practitioners than ENT practitioners because these specialists cannot be found in most health facilities. There is need for enhanced training of medical and nursing specialists in Ghana to increase access to expert care for all Ghanaians. There is urgent need to have the few practitioners taking care of all of us to be highly motivated through enhanced salaries and improvements in the general conditions of service. Opportunities should be created for nurses who have worked in ENT units as non-specialists to have sponsored training in becoming ENT specialists.
The national chairman of the ears, nose and throat group of nurses, Bismarck Asari, bemoaned how the inadequate skilled workforce to take care of the ears, nose and throat diseases in the country's health facilities, coupled with a sizable number of their colleagues leaving the country for greener pastures, is affecting the healthcare delivery system.
ENT health problems are the most common reason for a visit to a health facility, both in the rural and urban communities. And it accounts between 11 to 21% of all general OPD attendants. Studies have also shown that early diagnosis and management of ENT disease will help reduce the mortality. This makes the ENT nurse as an essential as any other part or person involved in the delivery of health. Some of our people were using otoscopes that are non-functioning. They were sitting on chairs that could not turn and move. This is just to mention by a few. We must say it is not a good sight to behold. We believe that these challenges need serious and urgent attention, looking at the rates at which our experienced members, and I must be emphatic here, ENT nurses and other cadre of nurses are leaving the country to seek for greener pastures. There are lots of people who were here in this hall last year when we met, but today we can't find them. Not that they are dead, but they have traveled outside the country in search of better working conditions.
Deputy Chief Nursing Officer at the Kibi Government Hospital, Reverend Hayford Lai, called for the use of technology to make the health system very efficient. Recognizing the urgent necessity for healthcare practitioners who care for the well-being of the population to be highly motivated, the Ears, Nose and Throat Specialists Association have emphasized the need for the upscaling of the conditions of service.
Now, in our next story, the Asantehene Otumfuose II has lauded multimedia journalist Erastus Asare Donkor for his steadfastness in the fight against illegal mining. Acknowledging the threats Erastus endured in exposing characters behind the Galamsey menace, the Asantehene commended him for his determination, hard work, and perseverance. He spoke when the team from the Kumasi unit of the Multimedia Group Limited presented laurels won by Erastus at the 27th Awards of the Ghana Journalists Association to him. Here's a report by Clinton Yeboah.
In a night filled with anticipation and excitement, the Ghana Journalists Association took center stage as Multimedia's Erastus Asare Donkor received the coveted PAV and Sir Journalist of the Year award, as well as the Illegal Mining Reporter of the Year. Erastus has over the years committed to uncovering the ills of illegal mining to arable lands, forests, water bodies and the health of the populace. When he visited the Mensha Palace, the Asantehene expressed his satisfaction with the role Erastus's reporting activities have played in the fight against illegal mining.
If not for God's protection, Erastus would have been harmed. He has uncovered and announced all the illegalities, but to no avail. Yet, he has been recognized by all journalists in the country. It is only inspirational when accolades like this are earned. At least we are hopeful some people cherish the truth. Thank you. Continue, and I entreat your colleagues to learn and emulate. It is only the truth that matters. Stick to the facts. I am aware you receive threats to keep quiet. It only means you are doing the right thing.
An elated Erastus Asare Donkor acknowledged Otumfuose's commendation as a motivation. He admonished his fellow journalists and corporate institutions to join the fight against illegal mining.
In fact, some countries are protecting their water bodies, their forests and other things because they believe that that is their mainstay. It borders on their very existence. And so for us to be destroying the rate at which we are destroying our land, our forests and other things, is something that motivates me to do my part. In fact, if the occupant of the golden stool congratulates you and encourages you, that's the ultimate. And so I'm indeed honored to be in his presence. I must say that the people who go with me on a daily basis, this gentleman risks his lives every day with me on the field. We don't do it for nothing. He also has a family and he has the same vision as I do. And together, I think if all journalists were to come on board and to see illegal mining, irresponsible mining as an existential threat, definitely, if we put our voices together, we'll be able to sustain and maintain this fight.
Reporting for Joy News, Clinton Yeboah.
Now, the outdooring of the reconstituted Englishi Alata Paramount Stool Council took place at Koligono on Tuesday. The event was to introduce the newly appointed chairman and his whole team who would be responsible in installing a new paramount chief for the Englishi Alata traditional area. In his acceptance speech, the newly installed chairman, Ni Ayinsa Sasraku III, urged the chiefs and other elders in the community to come together to help bring development and maintain peace among the Englishi Alata community.
I hereby accept the mantle and responsibility that has been placed on my shoulders as chairman of the Paramount Stool Council. And I hereby pledge to work hand in hand with the chiefs, kingmakers, councillors, and elders of the English Alata Paramount Stool Council, guided by the legal basis for its existence, the Native Administrative Ordinance of 1929, Section 6, to be precise. I also pledge that in my reign as chairman, I will work with all those mentioned above and the entirety of English Alata to bring development to the area. In this regard, I call upon all Noya Manchamen and Noya Manchamen to put their shoulders to the wheel so that we can all bring development to the English Alata traditional area. It is my favorite hope and prayer that all stakeholders will put their shoulders to the wheel and will work in sincerity, truthfulness, honesty, and forgiveness. I pray that there will be reconciliation among factions to bring about lasting peace and harmony to the Paramount Stone Council and the Traditional Council as well.
And it's on that note that we cap off the news. But do stay with us. The news review is up next. Thank you for staying. Time now for us to get into the newspapers, and we're joined by the NDC's parliamentary candidate-elect for South Tone, Maxwell Lukuto. Before we pan to him, before we get to him, let's just let you know, as always, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helps us every day, every morning, to bring you this segment. So here's what they're offering you. If you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. And here's where you can locate Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Here in Accra, they are at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, you can locate them at Kronum Abwehia behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji Estate, that's where you can locate them. If you come back into the Greater Accra region, Tema, they can be located in Community 22. There's also Techiman Hanswa and the Esiama and Zema branches as well. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the newspaper review, Maxwell Lukuto joins the conversation. Good morning, Max.
How are you doing?
I am well. How are you?
I am well, but all is not well for my constituents. Let me say good morning to you, your listeners, and my people in the Southcom constituency. Yes, the flood issue, water has receded significantly, and the consequences are here with us. The farmlands have been washed away. Even if you see the surfaces of the land themselves, they don't look like farms that used to be there a month ago. And so we are thinking about how to reconstruct these farms and get back to the normal life. Drinking water is an issue. And then food for the people who have been affected, who can't immediately go back to their livelihood, their workplaces, it's an issue. And so we're trying to survive, and we are managing. I just pray and hope that we will get more relief items. Let me use the opportunity to thank individual and corporate bodies who are continually been coming to our aid to give us support. Even yesterday, we received some relief items from some groups or companies that came around to support the disability community. The disability desk of the National Democratic Congress from the national level was with us yesterday to make some donations to these people, wheelchairs, and they brought some people to come and also repair those broken down ones and all those other stuff. So we want to be grateful to everybody who is coming to our aid, but we still need more aid, and our people will be grateful for the little thing that will come to them.
If I were to ask you, what specifically do you need for now? What is the most urgent need of the people? What would you say?
There is some food, not enough though, because like I keep saying, it will take about a month or over for people to get back to their normal self. We need food. We need water. And then people whose homes have been, all their houses are broken down out of the the settling of the water in these buildings for a long time need some shelter. So we will need some homes for some people to settle in. And then finally, we'll need some compensation package for farmers who have lost most of their farms in this flood.
All right, and well, we'll see about all of that. But let's get into the papers now, Maxwell. The Daily Graphic is where we're going to start from. It's a 2024 general election. That's the banner headline. Battle of the North. Bawumia Mahama on tough turf. And that's the main story there. On the back page, Mapa flood victims appeal for direct relief supplies. There's also Chibi Ahweniasehene donates mosquito nets to flood victims. Let's get into those stories. I'll start with the one on the back page. Now, flood victims taking shelter at 3 camps at Mapa in the North Tong district in the Volta region have appealed to relief donors to attend to them directly to save them from further starvation. They said the procedure to access the relief items meant for them was long and cumbersome. Currently, the items are channeled through the Emergency Operations Center at the district capital, Bator. Now, here's what they say, quoting, "In the abundance of donated relief items through the assembly, we are still going hungry without knowing when our next food supplies will reach us," the Mepe RC primary camp leader Kofi Amejo said. He said the camp was holding 110 people displaced by floods from the spillage from the Akosombo and Kpong dams. He added that requests by the displaced persons for food and other relief items from the assembly were not readily responded to, making life difficult for the people. He made the remarks when insurance brokers Edward Mensah Wood and Associates donated various relief items to the camps last Tuesday. The items valued at about 50,000 Ghana cedis included mattresses, bags of rice, boxes of tinned fish, cooking oil, tomato puree, and bales of clothes, among others. Is this reality? Is this the reality there? So that even in the midst of plenty, people are still hungry and going thirsty. Is that the reality, Maxwell?
Yeah, it should be the reality. You see, these items come through groups of people. Some come through the MPs, some come through the NADMO of the district assembly, some come through the chiefs and other individuals. I was also fortunate to have some relief items through me. What I do is as soon as I receive these things, especially the food stuff and water, I would quickly organize buses, trucks to load these things directly to the communities. And then we have a list of people who have been directly affected. And so when we call a community meeting of the people and then dish out these things directly to the individuals. There are some other groups of people who keep this stuff for some time. Maybe if it's a group of chiefs, they may want all of them to meet and decide on which community should benefit and how the relief items get to them. If it is through the MPs, of course, I'm aware that most of the MPs have kept these things under lock and key, and they may want to release that and when they deem it necessary and fit. And so, yes, I would agree to a large extent that there is a lot in stock, but maybe it is because of the control system.
But what are you suggesting? You say some of the MPs are keeping these items until they deem it fit to release them. I mean, what better time to release them than when people are starving? What is happening?
People may not be starving in the real sense of starve as we would want to look at it, but there's some rationing system that they would want to use in distributing these relief items. Their thinking may be that if you send all the things to them at a go, within a day or two or even a week, they will dissipate and they will still come back. So let's find a way of rationing these things to them. People come and go directly, like you have mentioned this Mensah Wood company or something. They have gone directly to them to give the items to them. And I am just thinking aloud that in their thinking, they feel that they should hold this for a little while so that whatever they have directly is done, they may want to send these things to them. But it's a wake-up call for us to go directly to the people and ensure that whatever we have in stock is given to them so that those who usually will benefit from the spoils of war will not take advantage. Also, around those who are keeping the items who also
right. Well, that's an interesting dimension. Thank you for the clarity there. Chibi Ahweniase donates mosquito nets to flood victims, and the chief of Chibi Ahweniase, Beruma Janse Korea, has donated 2,250 pieces of treated mosquito nets to the 37 military hospital in Accra to support victims of the Akosombo dam spillage. The insecticide nets are meant to curb the spread of malaria in the affected communities. Now, the items, estimated at 225,000 Ghana cedis, were designed by the Johns Hopkins University School of Public Health in Baltimore, Maryland, USA, and had been approved by the Food and Drugs Authority. So that's the latest there. At least I wanted to take those two stories bordering on the floods. But then let's get into the politics. The election of Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia as flag bearer of the governing New Patriotic Party has set the stage for a real showdown with former President John Mahama of the opposition National Democratic Congress for the Jubilee House in 2024. Both presidential hopefuls hail from the northern part of the country and will be battling for electoral supremacy in the 5 regions of the North and the Zango areas, which had remained faithful to the NDC since the inception of the Fourth Republic in 1992. The margins had, however, reduced since the emergence of Dr. Bawumia in the political space. Instructively, both candidates come from regions that had been carved out of the northern region. Now, while Dr. Bawumia comes from the northeast, Mr. Mahama hails from the Savannah region. Political paternal lineages, if you want to take a look at that, perhaps it is not surprising that the two northern contenders had political paternal lineages that had paved the way for them in their political careers. Former President John Mahama's father, Emmanuel Adama Mahama, was a Minister of State under Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. He was the first member of parliament for the West Gonja constituency and the first northern regional minister who later became a senior presidential advisor during Ghana's Third Republic under Liman. I'll not give all the scoop. I want you to get the paper and read it yourself. But let me also talk about Dr. Bawumia. His father, Alhaj Mumuni Bawumia, on the other hand, was a politician and lawyer who later became the chief of Berega near Wale Wale in the northeast region. Before then, he was chairman of the Council of State in the Fourth Republic from 1993 to 2000. During his early political career, he was a member of the Northern People's Party and later the United Party. He subsequently defected from the UP while still in parliament and crossed carpet to the Convention People's Party in 1958. So that's a bit of a history there. But coming to you, Maxwell, looking at all the dynamics at play currently, looking at the way the political landscape is, looking at the fact that now there are 2 candidates from the northern belt of the country, it looks like a straight fight. But the question is, can the MPP break the 8? And on the other hand, can the NDC wrest power from the NPP, even in spite of everything that has happened? What's your take?
Sure, we have interesting times ahead of us, especially with the coming on board of Dr. Bawumia as the leader of the New Patriotic Party. Let me say congratulations to him and congratulations to the NPP for a well-organized Congress to elect the flag bearer. I must say that the coming on board of Dr. Bawumia as the running mate to Nana Addo, the first time he came on board, didn't see the light of day. After 2 attempts and the third one, I think he got it through. And so, for me, I have known him as a person. He was a friend. We have done some businesses together. I have known him for some time before becoming the vice presidential candidate for Nana Akufo-Addo. And I've known him.
How did you know him? In what frame did you know him?
Yes, I've known him to be a gentleman. He was not politically savvy when I knew him. About a week or 2 before he was even announced as the vice presidential candidate, I was with him in his office at the Bank of Ghana then. And so we had a hearty chat. We even forgot to talk about that. After 2 weeks, I heard he was mentioned as the vice presidential candidate, and that was it. And so he was somebody I have known. He was he is a technocrat as much as I am aware. He's a free-going person. He came on board, and I think that he carried a lot of people along, especially with most of the theories he propounded. People thought that he was going to do something extraordinary. We all were disappointed in him after 8 years or 7 years in government, and he's not been able to turn the fortunes of the economy around. And so, for me, they say when the tooth dies is when you see the full length. So we have now seen the full length of Bawumia. We have known what Dr. Mahama has been an assemblyman, a minister, a vice president, a president. and now stage a comeback. We have now seen what the two of them can do. And so for me, this time we'll see the real show at the North. I'm not sure that Bawumia will be able to hold on to anything significant this time around as against the candidature of John Dramani Mahama to be able to cause an upset at the northern region. Of course, I congratulate them for choosing him overwhelmingly during the primaries. The votes he got were very significant, and it was a clear statement made from the North that would go for our own. And now that
but generally, if you look at the votes, 61.47%, it was a far cry from what even his campaign team and members of the NPP had been calling. The projection by that UK-based poll was that he would secure 80.8%. He didn't get that. Most of his campaign people and members of the NPP said he would get nothing less than 70%. The likes of Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, majority leader, and a plethora of people said that. He had 61%. That has been a point of concern for some.
Exactly. Remember the last time I spoke to you, I told you he was going to win. But as for the percentage being branded about the 75%, the 80%, I wasn't sure he was going to get. And true to what I also predicted, he couldn't get the 75 or 80%. For me, that is a cause for concern for his team and himself, because he has not brought to bear the overwhelming significance and overbearing that people thought he was going to bring on the NPP itself.
Right.
And for me, it is the true color of him that we have seen now. Hitherto, he would have been seen as a saint, and people would have been hailing him, but now most of us know who he is. And so he doesn't carry the weight that we thought he had. And so for me, he against JDM at the northern part of the country, I'm not sure he'll be able to hold his might so much against him. I believe that the 8 years tenure that he's had as a vice presidential candidate hasn't brought so much, especially that he's now drifted from being an economic whiskey to a digitalization expert. It means that he cannot, the fire was too hot for him, he had to leave the kitchen. So,
all right, so two quick things. One, is it going to be cool chop for the NDC and John Dramani Mahama against Dr. Bawumia? If you look at the rhetoric, if you look at the tail of the tape, maybe not. I would like to get your answer. But secondly, you would also look at the fact that he has contributed to the MPP's votes quite, a bit in the northern belt of the country. The NDC has happened to lose some seats. In fact, you lost some seats that you had to struggle to regain in the 2020 elections. So even if we're focusing on the northern belt, the fact that these two candidates are of northern extraction, the fact that they're going to go toe-to-toe, very close, in close proximity, in the same surroundings, and that the rest of the northern belt is going to be up for anyone to pick, depending on the message, it's going to be pretty tricky for you, isn't it? You look at the votes that the NDC have secured all the way from 1992 till around 2008, and it's been pretty solid. But then since Dr. Bawumia came in, he's also posed some problems for you. How do you analyze that?
Anybody who thinks the 2024 election is going to be a walkover for NDC should be a joker. But of course, at the end of the day, I know that we're definitely going to win as a party. Yes, Dr. Bawumia has made a lot of significant, has brought in a lot of votes for the NPP in the northern part of the country, because then we didn't know who he really is. Like I said, when a toad dies, you see its full length. Now that he's dead, we've seen the full length of himself. So he wouldn't be able to cause an upset like he used to do in the past. And he's had a stint as governor for the past 8 years. And so we've known him, we've seen him like John Dramani has been.
But the assertion is that you've not seen him as president, you've seen him as vice president.
And I am marking him based on his role as a vice president, not as a president. He was the leader of the economic management team, right? What has he brought to bear on the economy? That's why I say he's now shifted focus from being an economist and an expert, and now he's into digitalization. How far we've come with the digitalization and digitization is another matter. So for me, those are the things we are judging him on. And if Danado would always say that he's relied solely on the advice of his vice president, for which reason, even the last speech he rendered, he said that he's going to do anything and everything with this in power to make sure that he becomes the president of Ghana shows that he has so much confidence in him, and he might have taken a lot of advice from him. So Bawumia cannot absorb himself completely off from whatever is happening to us now as Ghanaians and say that because he's not a driver himself. Once in a while he drives, doesn't it? Mate, once your driver is not there, they'll put him in the seat. And what have you done within that period? Is what we are judging him with, not necessarily as a president. So for me, he doesn't have so much clout like he used to have, for which reason people will be running after him. This time, we have known and we have seen him, and we are definitely going to judge him based on that.
All right. Thank you for those thoughts. There's also impose stiffer punishment for attacks on media personnel. That story on page 4. Minister to Judiciary and the Ministry of Information has appealed to the judiciary to consider stiffer punishment for persons who attack media houses and journalists in the line of duty. During a presentation on the upsurge of attacks on journalists on the floor of Parliament yesterday, the Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, said data available to his ministry suggested that the trend was on the ascendancy. He stated that the phenomenon of attacks and intimidation of journalists was gaining notoriety in Ghana. So that's the first story I wanted to look at. I'll go on the international front and add to and take your responses from there. I've been very concerned, especially as one who has followed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for a while. G7 calls for humanitarian pauses in Israel's bombardment of Gaza. And top diplomats from the group of 7 have called for, quote, humanitarian pauses in Israel's bombardment in order to deliver aid to desperate Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. Now, the foreign ministers from the leading industrial democracies announced on Wednesday, November 8, that they had agreed upon a unified stance on the Israel-Hamas war following intensive meetings in Tokyo. They released a statement that condemned Hamas and supported Israel's right to self-defense, but called for humanitarian pauses in Israel's shelling of Gaza. The G7 statement sought to balance criticism of Hamas's attacks and support for Israel with a push for, quote, urgent action to help civilians in the besieged Palestinian enclave who are in desperate need of food, water, medical care, and shelter. And finally, having spoken about what is happening in the Middle East, let's also look at what is happening right here in Africa. Sudan conflict. Thousands flee fresh ethnic killings in Darfur. It appears whenever Darfur comes into the picture, there's always some negativity attached. It's sad. Thousands of people have been forced to flee the Sudanese region of West Darfur amid fears of ethnic cleansing, a medical charity says. Witnesses have accused the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces, that's the RSF, of targeting and killing non-Arabs. This comes after the RSF captured the Sudanese army headquarters in West Darfur's capital of El Geneina in recent days. The RSF said it was not involved in what it described as a, quote, tribal conflict. It has been battling the army for control for the country since April. So that's the RSF. And just to add this, Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, says most of the 7,000 people who have crossed into Chad in the past 3 days are women and children who are fleeing with nothing. And that is the heartbreaking aspect of all of these conflicts, whether it is Israel, Palestine, yes, Israel self-defense, but you know, a lot of the damage affecting the lives of women and children. Same thing in Sudan. And then the information minister on protecting the media. Your quick thoughts.
Yeah, so attack on media, I'm sure that will be of great concern to you because you are a player in the space. And most of us have condemned the attack on media because whatever you do as a human being is the media that is able to publicize that to a lot more of the people to hear of you. And so they, in the bid to do their legitimate work, may cross some lines, but should we throw away the baby with the bathwater? I think that we should always look at the other side of the story, knowing that they are there to also perform their responsibility and earn a living. And so the attack, yes, any day, any time, we need to condemn that. And so I support the Minister of Information saying that the for people who perpetuate these crimes on media should be harsher than we seem to be seeing it, so that if it's not that harsh, people will just go scot-free and the next time plan further attacks. About these wars that happen around us, especially Israel Hamas, I always will say that it is condemnable, especially from the side of Hamas, knowing the might of Israel. I don't know why they would always want to push them to the wall to bounce back. It is also not the best for Israel to restrict humanitarian aid to people who are being affected, because it's not everybody.
Their fear basically is that some of this might end up in the hands of Hamas, and maybe other things that should not get in will also get in through those windows. But at the same time, you cannot overlook the pain, the misery, the suffering, especially of women and children.
Yeah, Israel has been in this act of war for a very long time. And I'm sure that by now they would have mastered the craft of being in war and also allowing humanitarian aid. Because sincerely, you can't punish people unduly. I'm not sure everybody in Palestine belongs to the Hamas and is in support of whatever they do. So at least in all these circumstances, you should give some allowable space for people to breathe and also live.
Right.
I'm not sure they're interested in just wiping away everybody on the surface of the Gaza Strip. And so they should really look at these things and make sure that people are able to breathe. Same as we are experiencing. Let's not get to the extent where every living creature on earth or within the space will be wiped away. We have to look at these things again. We are human.
Right.
And everybody who is doing that should also look at the humanitarian aspect of everything and make sure that at least tomorrow there will be some living beings also on it.
All right. Let's make tracks and work within the next few minutes to cap off the review. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, 513,336 businesses land in trouble for failing to file annual returns and renewal for 3 years. EPA pushes for prosecutorial powers to punish environmental offenses. Attacks on journalists worsening upon Nkrumah warns. But there's a story on the back page I'd like to start from. Jura residents appeal to government to halt illegal mining activities in communities. And that's where I want to start, on the back page. Now, residents of 3 farming communities in Jura, in the Nzema East municipality of the Western region, have appealed to the government and the security agencies to halt the illegal operations of Okobeng Mining Company Limited and Juraman Company Limited in the enclave. Now, the communities Abelobo, Eswewa, and Afransie complained that the operations of the 2 companies had distorted the economy, social life, and the environment of the 3 communities. The family head of Jura, Abelobo, Nana Efriwa II, who made the appeal on behalf of the residents in the 3 communities in an interview with the Ghanaian Times yesterday, alleged that the 2 companies were currently engaged in galamsey at Eswewa and Jura Afransie and would soon enter Abelobo. Quoting him, he says, "Any attempts to enter Abelobo will be met with the full force of the community. Okobeng Mining Company Limited, through its activities, has caused huge devastation to Jura lands, resulting in loss of livelihoods, economic and social dislocations as well." And those are the concerns being raised. In fact, there's a picture there of the river Ankobra, and it shows how things have really deteriorated as far as that is concerned. Let me also get to the banner headline. There is... okay, so where's that story? It is on page 11. All right, here we go. A total of 513,336 businesses that have defaulted in filing their annual returns and renewal for the past 3 years risk being struck off from the company's registry if they fail to file by December the 31st this year. The businesses include 3,100 church organizations, and I find it interesting, 3,100 church organizations and 500,000 sole proprietorship entities. Already, 2,788 businesses in default have been put in a state of inactivity for non-filing of returns for more than 3 years. Reflections, Maxwell.
Yes, so the mining issues, we have long spoken about them, the effect it's having on our land, our water bodies, and then on livelihood. People are looking for the quick fix they will get today from the galamsey that they do and forget about the future of us. You do galamsey, you get money, you need to go and buy food with it. And so if farmlands are being destroyed because of galamsey, we should know that our future is very bleak. And I don't know why the regulatory bodies, the tax forces that we always form, end up not achieving the result that we expect them to achieve. And at the end of the day, all we hear is they themselves accusing one another for being neck deep in this act. And so it's always a border when new tax forces are being formed, especially from this MPP government. They do it and they come back to accuse themselves. And even when Frimpong had to come out with some evidences and stuff like that, people still don't believe it and they want him to go further than he could have gone and just rubbish anything he comes to say. It's unfortunate. Sometimes I just don't know what else we could do to salvage the situation that we found ourselves in. Industries coming to our areas to do things and affect our land. At this point, let me say that the issue of the Adan to flow thing about Magdan and the salt mining and the individuals, the folks in town, the fight, it's unfortunate. So these people are threatening that anybody who comes to their town again, especially in the Ejura area that we are talking about in terms of the galamsey thing, they will meet them squarely. Same thing happening in Adam, and one person shot dead, a lot of people have been injured. My condolences to them and to my colleague PC, Daniel Bessie. It's a tough one for him, and I just pray and hope that tempest will calm down and issues will be resolved more amicably. And so I think that we should be able to look at these things more critically and make sure that we save our future. The people in the communities, their livelihood matters so much to them, not just today. After 2, 3, 4 years, the people have to survive. If you come and just take anything and everything away, how do they survive? So I think that these policies should be refocused on how to resolve some of these taking problems that we see every day in our communities, and we just don't on the issue. It's not the best for us as a country.
Maxwell, I think the point is made there. My apologies. We're running out of time. I just want us to quickly take a look at these stories and wrap up. I think your point is made, respectfully. Page 10 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's respect human rights of persons with disability. The executive director of Protector of Sentiments Foundation, Jonathan Osei-Owusu, has called on government to prioritize disability issues and pay more attention to it to ensure that the human rights of such persons are respected. He noted that much had not been done after the establishment of the Disability Act 2006 to improve the living conditions of persons with disability, adding that it had taken the country from 2006 up to now to amend the act and put it into action. Of course, we all know about, for example, our brothers and sisters who are visually impaired and the fact that even white canes, common white canes, are not provided for. A chunk of them, a large percentage of them, very few have them. So what quality of living or quality of life are we giving them? But 2 stories to wrap the conversation. The Daily Guide, it says, 7 names pop up for Bawumia running mates. And I'm sure you've heard of some of them. So let's just cut to the chase. Among the prominent figures whose names have emerged, Osei Mensah Bonsu, majority leader, a seasoned politician. There's also Akosua Frima Osei-Opare, Chief of Staff, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, MP for Manhyia, Energy Minister Joseph Osei-Owusu, MP for Bekwai, and First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Apostle Opoku Onyina, immediate past Chairman of the Church of Pentecost, Isaac Osei, former MP for Subing, and Dr. Yao Osei-Educhum, Member of Parliament for Bosomtwe and Minister of Education. There's also Come Join the Butterfly, Alan tells Ghanaians. And finally, the Business Finder newspaper, Get Fund clears 800 million Ghana cedi arrears, owed contractors on uncompleted projects. And so that is the latest situation there. Approximately 800 million Ghana cedis, equivalent to 96% of the total cost of inherited projects, has been disbursed to contractors who were awarded the contract. That's as far as the Get Fund is concerned. You can pick and choose which stories to reflect on, and it's a wrap. We have 2 minutes. Over to you, Maxwell.
Yeah, my interest will be the Get Fund project. It will be good news to hear that contractors have been paid because of the rippling effect that payment to contractors have on the economy. Many people rely on these people, suppliers, carpenters, masons, there are a lot of players within the space of construction. So it should be a good news if it is true that contractors have been paid and they will go back to work and make sure that these things are done. About the vice presidential slot, yes, it's normal. In political space like this, when it's done, a lot of people will come around and the jostling for power and all those things will come. I just wish Dr. Bawumia all the best. I know it's not the best of situations he would have found himself in now, because whoever he chooses comes to hand or play well for you. And so it's a dicey situation for him. But at the end of the day, I'm sure he will do C and above among the people and just pick one of them. Whoever they pick for us, we are just battle ready for any of them to come. We are assured that GDM, together with whoever he chooses as his deputy or his vice, would get a nod for us as a country at the end of the day, so that we can this round.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maxwell. We're grateful for your time with us this morning. Maxwell Lukuto, of course, the NDC's parliamentary candidate elect for South Tone, and he's reiterating the call. The people in South Tone, North Tone, Central Tone, they need help. So let's all put our resources together, pool our resources, and give them that assistance. Maxwell, thank you for joining. Before we veer into sports, this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And they're offering free prostate screening if you're a man, free fertility screening if you're a woman. Just reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronoma here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanso and Siama and Zama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. The end to chronic disease. But if sports is your thing, all the highlights from the major sports are up next with Mubarak Haruna. Do stay.
You're still watching the AM show and it's time for sports. My name is Harun Omban, head coach of Ampem Dakwa. Joe Nana Dakwa, he has expressed his team's readiness for the second game in the CAF Women's Champions League against AS Monday. They will be playing today and he has been speaking ahead of the game.
For this opportunity again, we won our first game. We are happy about that, but we are not done yet. We'll come to the second game with determination and everything so that we can win the next game. Yeah, we are done with the first game. We are happy and we are going to work towards that game. We are not going to sit down and say we have won the first match, so we are going to sleep. We will keep on working hard so that we can win the next game and say true. We want to be at the top of the group. Yeah. Oh, we watched them the other day. We play first game and they play the second game. We watch them, but we can't bring our arsenals for people to see. So we are going to hide it and bring it. We want to surprise them, so we are not coming out with our arsenal.
All the best there to Ghana, and Asante Kotoko head coach Prosper Nate Ogum. He has accused the senior players of being politicians and using the media to earn playing time. The Porcupines have had a rough start to the season. 4-game winless run has left the team in 14th with 10 points. Speaking to the press, Ogum explained why he has been starting some youngsters ahead of the senior players.
But I want to even answer it myself. Coach brought some players and he wants those players to play. Do you know what happens at training? You don't know. But have you forgotten that it is the very coach who was given the opportunity to ask some players to go and to let some players stay? So I made some players to stay because per me staying at home for that 1 year and watching the team, I saw that those who I asked to stay could help in the course, what I want to do. And then, as I said earlier, I'm wanting to bring in those Premier League players. So, for instance, even those who have played, you'll be surprised that I penciled so many of them down. I have a tactical sheet. Every match we play, if this player is very good, I pencil him down. So I'm fixing my tactical sheet in the house. So those Premier League players were brought in. First Division players were brought in. Division 2 players were brought in. It's all about the coach thinking that those players can help. So if you are an old player and you never worked with the coach, or you have even worked with the coach, let me even say you never worked with the coach, and you know who the coach is and what the coach represents, and the coach comes and you think that you can be a politician within the club. I tell them, most of you are politicians. I know, but I don't want to mind you. Players stay in Kotoko after 1-2 years, they turn into politicians. They use the media to fight for positions to play. But me as a coach, you will never get me. Because I'm so strong-minded that it's not what people say that I follow. If what you are saying is indeed the right thing, then moral values will force me to what? To implement it. But if what you are saying is the wrong thing, then that it will not force me. The fact that something is wrong, and all of us here in the room are saying it is right, and when I come and meet it, and I know that it is wrong, because all of you are saying it is right, I should join you. No. Common sense will not permit me to do that. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I think today my voice has changed.
Yes. And we love that.
You see, so please, you rather should look at things critically and then talk to those issues as they are. Do not discuss issues based on emotions, but discuss issues based on practical facts.
Well, let's still stay in Ghana, but to some national team issues, and it's Chris Hughton, the Black Stars head coach, who is in a precarious position as he's likely to lose his job. This has been necessitated by the back-to-back defeats to Mexico and then the United States of America. Now, joining me for more details is Muftar Nabila Abdullah on phone. Muftar, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm here with you.
Yeah, so what do you have about the possible sacking of Chris Hughton?
Well, what we do know as a team is that Chris Hughton's future will be decided on Friday when the Executive Council of the Ghana Football Association meets to decide on whether to retain him or let him go. And many of our followers or audience of Joy Sports would probably have gotten the hint that I gave on October 20 during one of our episodes on Game Plan, where I mentioned that there was a possibility of the technical team members losing their jobs, and that they shouldn't be afraid of the threat of being fired based on decisions that they want to take. And that hint was based on the fact that intel had reached me from the people who were in the USA that they were discussing the possibility of parting company with Chris Hughton. As you and I speak, we understand there's likely to be a meeting with the Ministry of Youth and Sports to firm up the decision. And some members of the Executive Council, they have already been informed, and they have been lobbied to vote in favor of the sacking of Chris Hughton. But some that I have had the privilege of engaging do not subscribe to the idea of parting company with Chris Hughton just a week to the start of the World Cup qualifiers, and also we just less than 70 days to the start of the African Cup of Nations in Côte d'Ivoire. However, we await the final decision that is going to come from the Ghana Football Association on Friday. After that meeting, sources close to the head coach has also been told that the future of Chris Hughton is in danger, and I've had a privilege of engaging people who are very close to Chris Hughton and know the kind of man he is, and what they've made me to understand is that they are very much aware of the meeting that is going to happen on Friday and some of the things that have been put on the agenda. What we can state categorically is that the Black Stars squad for the African Cup, for the World Cup qualifier against Madagascar and Comoros has also been delayed because of the decision the Executive Council wants to take. We can also report that George Boateng, who is the assistant to Chris Hughton, is a man being lined up as a potential replacement for Chris Hughton in the interim for the World Cup qualifiers and also the African Cup of Nations. So, Mubarak, that is the information available to us as we speak. I'm sure by now people have even notified Chris Hughton that, yes, your job is on the line, and I'm sure Chris Hughton is very much aware of this. And also, George Boateng in line to take over the coaching job of the Black Stars. Like I mentioned, this discussion took place in the USA, where they needed political backing before they can take the decision, because they don't pay the salaries. It's the politicians who pay the salaries. So by the close of day today, we would have a clear understanding as to whether there's approval from the political angle when it comes to the future of Chris Hughton. But for now, the GFA has taken a decision. That decision is to let him go. The president is the head of the executive council. It is his decision that everyone will follow. But I also know that some members of the executive council will vote against the decision to sack Chris Hughton.
Thank you very much, Muftar. Muftar, they're talking to us about Chris Hughton. He's working on a tightrope as far as his job is concerned. Now, let's end with the National Bank Accra Marathon event. Now, with just 2 days to go to the big event on Joy Prime, it's something that we should be looking forward to. And there are final touches is being put in place for the event. And we are also glad to inform our cherished audience that the marathon will be broadcast live on Joy Prime from 6 a.m. this coming Saturday. That's your sports. My name is Harun Mubarak, and the AM show continues.
Parliament had been on recess all this period, whilst several communities had been taken over by the floods caused by the spillage of the Akosombo Dam. Whilst the human suffering in these communities continue, Parliament is now set to take some action on their behalf. Minority Leader Dr. Kiselato Forsen, in his welcome remarks, announced his side was going to file a private member's motion to demand a probe.
In the last few weeks, Mr. Speaker, we have witnessed arguably the biggest man-made disaster to ever befall our nation. I am referring to the devastation caused by the spillage of the Akosombo Dam by the Volta River Authority. Mr. Speaker, as Minority Caucus, our hearts bleed for all the victims of this man-made disaster, which has rendered several thousands of people homeless and swept away farms, destroyed livelihood of many people in parts of Oti region, Volta region, Eastern region, Greater Accra region, Bono East, Savannah, and Northern regions. Mr. Speaker, the affected communities and regions have yet to recover from the aftermath of this disaster. The conduct of both the government and the Volta River Authority in terms of leading a coordinated emergency response and disaster relief effort leaves much to be desired. Right Honourable Speaker, I conclude by saying that we hereby serve notice that we will present a motion to demand a parliamentary inquiry into the circumstances that led to a man-made disaster of such magnitude.
The Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu focused on the politicization of the floods, but insisted the VRA must be brought before MPs to answer questions.
The House may have to invite the VRA to brief us on the situation relating to the spillage and all other connected matters. Mr. Speaker, I believe the Minister responsible for water resources and indeed energy as well. It is scary, Mr. Speaker, the extent some Ghanaians, including some MPs, go to politicize every single event in this country. As MPs, one of our core responsibilities is to inform and by that educate the citizenry.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin has now ordered that the House conducts an inquiry into the floods and the VRA's actions.
It is unacceptable that an activity as potentially destructive as dam spillage was done without a well thought through security and safety preparedness plan. As such, Parliament will take the necessary action to inquire into the matter and make recommendations for the protection of property and lives living along the Volta River and Lake and other settlements along riverbeds. Honorable members, this is a national assignment, and Parliament should be seen to be leading in finding solutions to this somehow perennial problem confronting the nation.
It is not clear which form exactly this probe that has been ordered by the Speaker will take, but it will normally come in two forms. Either a special committee will be constituted with members from either side of the House to look into these matters, or an existing standing committee will be asked to look into these matters. But of course, it must be put on record that the NDC MPs have had some strong words for the Volta River Authority, which they say have spearheaded this man-made disaster in the Volta region. But one thing that has stood out in this matter on the floor of the House is that both sides have spoken about the need for government and other individuals to move in to restore life to normalcy. Reporting for Joy News, Wiku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Welcome back on the AM show, and from Parliament and everything that has been happening there, we addressed this topical issue as far as the spillage of the Akosombo Dam is concerned. Now, we know that the Mankralo of the Bator traditional area had spoken forcefully for his people, stating that they had to be relocated and compensated, without which he would bus his people to the Saglemi affordable housing unit. Now, they gave a 2-week ultimatum. Guess what? This weekend will be the deadline. We're going to have a bit of interaction to find out what led to this entire situation and what more we can expect. In fact, we're going to have some conversations on the back of this. But let's now connect with Carlos Kaloni. He has been monitoring this development. Carlos, good morning. What can you tell us about the activities, or what led to this stance by the Mankralo of Bator?
All right, Benjamin, this actually happened on the 29th of October 2023 when the Tobinco group of companies presented some relief items to flood victims in one of the communities. And so, according to the Sogbe Heavy Boboji, the 7th, many of the communities that the residents live in, got flooded to the extent that most of the houses there got demolished, destroyed. And so going back is not in the equation at all, because where are they going to? And according to him, due to what has been predicted, but that the spillage of the Akosombo Dam was caused by heavy rain, they really cannot tell when the next rain is going to come. And so going back to such communities won't be the appropriate thing to do. And so, given the ultimatum, he gave the indication that since the incident happened about 4 weeks ago, they were yet to hear from government on government plans to relocate the people or to compensate them. And so he said that they were giving government 2 weeks from that 29th of October. And so come Sunday, the 2 weeks will elapse, within which they expect government to come up with a compensation plan or a relocation plan. If that does not happen by Sunday, the traditional leaders from the Mepe, Bator, Aveime area, all the affected areas, they are putting their heads together to provide bars for the people who have been affected, and they will lead a charge. gather all these people and bus them to the Saglemi housing site. And so we have some few days to go. Today is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If nothing happens up to Sunday, then we are likely to see the traditional leaders of these areas, get these people and bus them to the Saglemi housing site, Benjamin. So that is the picture.
And from where you sit, obviously, that act of busing people to the Saglemi affordable housing unit is still on course, right? Slated for this weekend.
It is still on course, Benjamin. It is still on course. In fact, my sources at Bato area are telling me the traditional leaders have been meeting over this particular matter. And there are people, from the indications, there are people who are ready to even provide buses to these traditional leaders. And so plans are far advanced. They are just waiting for the ultimatum to elapse. Then they will rope in their plans. So that is it. And I believe that they are equally getting support from the residents. I mean, some residents are in support of what the traditional leaders are calling for. What they need is just for the government to tell them the plan for compensation and relocation. But don't forget, these traditional leaders have made lands available for government to, put up structures for them. So according to them, they have done their part. They are just waiting for government to speak to the matter. That's all they are asking for. They want to hear from government. What is the plan for us? What is the relocation plan for us? What is the compensation plan for us? Tell us this within 2 weeks. And if you don't do that, this is what we're going to do. So it's up to government now to speak to them and tell them, well, this is the way forward on your demands, Benjamin.
Carlos, thank you so much for bringing us the scoop on that. Carlos Kaloni with our crew, of course, reporting on that matter. And if you missed it, the Mankralo of the Bator traditional area stating categorically that with the flooding and everything that has happened, the spillage which has led to the flooding and the washing away of part of the community under his jurisdiction, houses have been destroyed and all that. And they have called on government to help them in relocation or to compensate them, without which they will bus themselves this weekend, come Sunday, to the Saglemi housing site. Well, that's the latest development there. Stay with us. When we return after the break, we have a conversation with Dr. Ibn Chambers. We're going to be talking about some of the core issues happening in Ghana and this latest event that is being organized. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. Now, right before we get into that other conversation, how about we take a sneak peek at what former President John Dramani Mahama has been saying? What specifically? I'm referring to the 24-hour shift system, or the 3 or 2, depending on how you look at it, shift system, like applies in other jurisdictions. What would that mean for an economy like ours? Is it even practicable? Is it feasible? What would that mean for business, big business, small business? And of course, how could that impact our GDP? Well, joining us for a conversation, we have Professor Lord Mentor of the University of Ghana Business School. Prof, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to our viewers.
Thank you for joining. So here we go. How did it strike you initially when you heard this statement by former President Mahama about this 24-hour working cycle or this multiple shift system? We've seen it in other jurisdictions, but Ghana, that's the question. How did it strike you?
Yeah, well, it was an open statement, but then we may have to also appreciate that we have some, sectors of the economy that are operating 24 hours, but then we've not conscientized ourselves to appreciate the fact that, these industries can be, boosted, or these industries can be motivated to enhance 24-hour service. And I presume that he said that in a context of creating, jobs and creating employment. Our economy is reeling, but then it is an economy that people work for 8 hours and they think we started work around 9 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock in the evening, job is done. We may have to go to sleep. But then there are some critical sectors like, healthcare, emergency services, transportation, customer support service that are required to operate 24 hours. As we speak now, some of them are operating 24 hours. But then the peak hours seem to be like a burden on employees. But then if we conscientize ourselves for which government is able to align policies by, engaging the private sector. Some private sector operatives can operate, 24 hours. But then also we need to also look at the securities services. We talk about policing. It's
Right.
24 hours. But then the 24-hour service that police provide, the night service is somehow, some way, weaker. Which we've not, looked at. Okay, fine. The same numbers that are working during the day, we can get the same working in the night, one way or the other, to create jobs. It all boils down to how government wants to position itself. Now, we have ourselves with the IMF. If you look at the 24-hour service, we cannot just pick that point alone and say government is ready to, go by 24-hour service. We need to look at all other things that was said, at the labor meeting by the former president.
Right.
We have a situation where, the policy alternatives that were provided seem to align with the IMF program. And by so doing, ahead of, talking about lean government. Lean government has a way of cutting down costs. So we're not going to see a situation where we have a government running at a higher cost, for which at every point in time, we're running a huge budget deficit that forces the government to go to the market every now and then, choking the market and then crowding out the private sector. But if it turns up that we go out there to run a lean government and we reduce, budget deficit as required by the IMF program that we find ourselves in,
right,
then, the economy is going to be shifted from the corridors of government to businesses. And by so doing, if businesses are active and they can interest rates reduce as a result of government reducing its budget deficit, then obviously engaging private sector to run 24-hour service by increasing production, having market out there, then it would turn up to be creating, jobs for people. So I believe that we shouldn't, take the 24-hour job creation just all by itself, but other, policies that must go with it to make sure that, this is achieved. We have to look at, all this holistically. So I believe it is feasible. Certain sectors are already operating, 24-hour service. We just have to make sure that we conscientize that. We have healthcare. Healthcare, every now and then you must be on standby, ready for emergencies and other things. Transportation, we have Uber services that are running, 24-hour, service. Midnight, you get people traveling, and customer support services. Like, for instance, when you have problem with your phone, MTN, you call them 24. We just have to conscientize people that these are areas we can expand, to get people employed. The
Right.
police service, you get police service, pushing people to go in the night, but not the same capacity as, they work in the day. Why don't we allow, the police service to recruit so that we can, get people work, 24 hours as expected. So it is feasible, but, for economy that is, growing, right? We find ourselves at the bottom part of, our economic dynamics. And I believe that, having, this 24-hour service policy, I know it cannot be, achieved within maybe 1 year or 2 years. But if you really have a plan, right, you start with a security service where businesses will be sure that we are protected in the night.
Right.
Definitely, you're going to get, activities running into the night, and it will create that kind of, job
right.
that is expected.
So there are a number of things that have come through, and I find them interesting. You've already started talking about some of the things I wanted to get through, because I wanted to ask you how, for example, this could bolster the private sector and get it to tag along in terms of coming on board. Like you just stated, if there's security available and it's visible, then, for example, filling stations, fuel stations would want to run deep into the night, so that it doesn't mean by 10, 11 p.m. they've gone to sleep. And if you're driving coming from somewhere, the likelihood of topping up on fuel becomes a problem. But let's look at it from some of these angles. You mentioned healthcare. The reality is that, and I've been to hospitals at dawn before, unfortunately, at a point when COVID was, running amok. I had to go to the Greater Accra Regional Office Hospital. I'll tell you for a fact that a lot of these hospitals offer the bare bones, the barest minimum when it comes to healthcare. And so if it's not during the day and it's at night, can you imagine at that time of dawn, maybe 3, 4 a.m., I was being told to wait for a medical doctor who would only show up at about 8 a.m. There was no bed. You get it. It's simply non-existent around that point in time, unless maybe it's some private practice. So that is the reality. In terms of policing, we've heard stories of people telling you that you call the police, maybe there's a robbery or something, and they'll tell you, wait till morning and we'll come, or do your best and hold off the armed robbers till, you get it. So that's the picture. So in that sense, I feel if we were able, like you said, to get our act together, it would work very well. Now, here's what I'm thinking. There's Ayalolo, there's Metro Mass, the DVLA. There are some people who may work a 9 or 8 to 5, but they have renewals to do. Maybe it's the driver's license, maybe it's whatever it is, roadworthiness. They want to go to the DVLA. This would mean you can complete your work and go there and do whatever has to be done. Same with the GRA. So I think maybe along those lines, it could be very workable. But like you said, it must be with a whole approach to it. If you were rendering some advice on how to execute this, before I go to Malik Basintale, Deputy National Communications Officer of the NDC, along what lines would you be thinking, for starters, the most basic things to be looked at, Prof?
Well, it has to do with, the segregation of the job market. You see, in other parts of the world, if you are being employed, sometimes you may be employed purposely for night. And I know people who have their personal economic activities during the day, and night they commit to their jobs. I have worked, in the night for 2 years in the UK before, because during the day I was studying, and I wanted to get something into my phone or my pocket, during, the night. So I was an active, person in the night. So you give incentives, for people to work in the night. And like I said earlier, it depends on how government position itself. And I believe with the things I've been hearing, and then I heard, about some few things about NDC alternative policies that they want to roll out. I don't know whether you've seen it. And clearly, all the things in there, position the government, to be a government that wants to encourage the private sector. A government that wants to run, the economy by, moving away from a core, buoyant government business, right? And then shifting the economy to the private sector. And when it happens like that, you can give the private sector things like tax cuts, right? You can give them things like incentives to employ in the night. And so if, you have a government that is running a lean government that is not ready to start new projects, but rather taking stock of old projects and continuing with them, then obviously you could see that as a government that wants to transfer the economy to the private sector and possibly give, the private sector that incentive to work. So
would that be a positive? Would that be a positive thing?
The segregation of the labor market. And once you're able to segregate the labor market, conscientize people, give them incentive to work in the night, you should be able to run this policy.
Interesting stuff. Let me also bring in, there's Malik Basintale of the NDC's end. There's also Collins Adomako-Mensah, a member of Parliament for Ifija Kwabre North. He joins the conversation. He's also a member of Parliament's Finance Committee. There are some other things I'll run by Collins later. But for now, Malik, so having joined the conversation, where really does the NDC sit on this matter of having a 24-hour working system with different shifts? What is the policy thinking as far as the NDC is concerned? Is that Malik we just lost? All right, Collins, thank you for joining the conversation. Now, this is what has come through as far as... Is this Collins or Malik?
This is Collins.
All right, Collins, thank you for staying. Now, this is a proposal that has come to the fore. In recent times, it has stoked a discussion on having a 24-hour working system. You've traveled widely, and I know that you may have experienced it in other countries, as the rest of us have. What is your initial thinking on that and how it can boost our economy, especially regarding where we are now?
Well, good morning to you, your good self, and it's been a while. I'm sure by next week you visit your studio. But I listened to the former president, and I think this is not the first time I've heard him make this proposal. Unfortunately, I didn't get too much detail apart from the initial proposal and the initial announcement. I didn't get much detail. But the question is, Mr. Mahama, His Excellency, has to answer some few questions. And I keep telling my colleagues in the NDC that one of the biggest problems the NDC and Mr. Mahama will have is that he has been in government before. And he had the authority, he had the power. When did this idea of a 24-hour economy come in?
Doesn't matter. I wanted us, because I don't want us to get into the politics of it, which is why I want us to look at the policy and whether it is good. It is a good angling for our economy. Whether someone did what then and did what now, we could say same about the MPP. That's not what we want to have out of this conversation.
The point is whether this whole idea of a 24-hour economy is even a novelty. I used to work in the bank, and we had some staff members from the bank who used to stay behind because they have to communicate with our correspondent banks. Sometimes we have correspondent banks in Asia, in Europe, and all that. They have to stay behind to interact with them because of the time difference. As I speak here now, I know that I could apply for a passport or a DVLA license, even at 2 a.m., because of the digitalization agenda this government is already implementing. That is why I'm saying that I would like to know more, if you can throw more light on how he intends to implement that. But as I said, it's not a novelty. It's not something that has not been heard before, has not been done before. As I speak to you now, we have some institutions in this country that are running a 24-hour service. I know call centers that are 24 hours. You were talking about the police service, which has a call center that runs 24 hours.
We're talking about real services. It's not just about maybe call centers that may be operational. We're talking about full operations like you would find in the UK, in the US, and other parts of the world. We're talking about, for example, filling stations. I don't know whether you've never encountered this, where you're coming from far away back into Accra or something, and you're struggling to get any filling station that is working.
I get the point you are making, but I know of certain filling stations in this country that run a 24-hour service. I know certain pharmacies in this country that run 24 hours. That is why I'm saying that it will make the discussion will be more enlightened, or it will become easier if we are giving more details as to how we intend to implement this particular 24-hour economy that His Excellency is talking about. On the face of it, it sounds interesting. It sounds a concept that we all have to look at and probably understand. But as I said, for me, as I sit here, it's not a novelty to me. I've seen other institutions run a 24-hour service. As you said, the filling stations. I know certain filling stations in this country that run 24 hours. I know pharmacies, and I'm sure you know certain pharmacies in this country that run 24 hours. So let's wait and get the details. And then from there, I think we can interrogate them. But on the face of it, it sounds an interesting idea.
Let me bring in Malik Basintale, Deputy National Communications Officer of the NDC. What sort of thinking went into an idea like this? It has worked in other parts. It doesn't necessarily mean it will work in Ghana. There are bottlenecks, I should say, in terms of our economy. So What was the reasoning behind this proposal?
Good morning to your viewers and some listeners. Two principles and two issues have been raised. One has to do with the rate of unemployment in the country. The other has to do with the declining growth in the country. And President Mahama, considering all these factors, arrived at a conclusion that it was time, it was right for Ghana to have a 24-hour economy. Let me see that, as you rightly said, this is not the first time we are having a similar thing within some jurisdictions in this country. Some of us who grew up in Tema will tell you that the harbor works closely to a 24-hour system in this country. Throughout the night, people are offloading things from, ships and what have you. The security agencies in this country run a 24-hour system. Hospitals in this country run a 24-hour system, including other businesses. What we haven't experienced, and I'm surprised that for 66 years, no president, has thought about that, is to ensure that government institutions also run a 24-hour system. I tell you that because of our bureaucratic systems in this country, sometimes the endorsement of documents, critical documents in this country, will have to take a month or two, all because by 4 p.m. all public institutions are closed down. And so you would have to wait for the next day. Unfortunately, on your part, if the CEO or the one in charge should travel, then that ends it for you. You would have to wait till his return. And I think that has gone a long way to affect efficiency and the effectiveness of our systems in this country. So President Mahama, in his thinking and through consultation, has arrived at a point where he feels that a lot of our Ghanaian youth are seated at home whilst they could be working in the night. Look, at night, you go to night clubs and you find a lot of Ghanaian youth there, whiling away time. You go out to some joints and you find a lot of unemployed Ghanaian youth out there, seated there and engaging in conversation. These people could be actively working in the night for the government of Ghana. And in as much as we will use that to check the unemployment rate in this country, it would also go a long way to build upon productivity and the effectiveness of our systems in this country. It's been implemented in other countries. For those of you who travel to London, who travel to the US and what have you, you get there at 12 a.m. and the country is actively working. You get there at 2 a.m. and the country is running. So when you wake up and see them declaring very good growth rates, it's not because they closed at 4 p.m., went home to sleep and woke up at 7 a.m. again to report work. It's because they were effectively working in the night while other countries were sleeping. And so, to achieve this, President Mahama has started enrolling the blueprint and unfolding it. In the coming days, you get to understand more. But most critical among them is how we are going to block revenue shortfalls in this country in order to boost up, the financing criteria for this. Because mind you, this is going to do with two main pillars, financing and then infrastructure. We have a lot of infrastructural projects that have been abandoned. Completing them will mean that we have to employ new stock onto them. And then we have a lot of human resources already available to get employed and work throughout the night. What has been challenging has been how to finance it. And President Mahama has said, look, we have over 100 ministers in this country. Under this regime, at a point in time, they had employed more than 120 ministers. President Mahama is saying that I'll cut that down. I'll reduce my ministerial stock to 60 ministers, and over 50 ministerial slots that will be saved. If we liquidate it, we'll be able to pay for more than 3,000 new youth that will be working. And you can do the calculation. Ministers today take over 22,000 Ghana citizens. Add these allowances, add these DSTV payments, add these chef and whatever, all the travel allowances and what have you. A minister in a month, you'll be saving close to 100,000 spent on that minister. If you multiply that by close to 60 ministers that will be taken out of the working stock, you get a good amount, and that could be used to pay a lot of Ghanaian youth out there. President Mahama has also said that should he close down or stop flying private jets in this country, paying about £14,000 an hour across the world, if you cut down on that, you'll be able to save a lot of revenue again to pay some youth that will be working in this avenue. And so there's a clear roadmap to this. Cutting down on revenue leakages in this country would be able to employ many more people that will be working. Look, we've had the reason for this, and I'll land on this before you come in. The reason for this is because you go to institutions today, and the reason why many institutions are unable to employ is because of the working time. So you work from 7 to 4. You cannot employ 200 people to that same facility to be at the office from 7 to 4. Doing what? But if you run a 24-hour shift system, at least you have 3 shifts. There are those who come in the morning from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Some will come from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. and others will come from 8 p.m. to the next day. You will be able to employ even 300 people within that same facility. Well,
all right. So I think your point is forcefully made. Like sometimes we have in different places, right. A night shift or a graveyard shift, a day shift, a dawn shift, a straight day shift. But right. Here's where it gets interesting. You need an entire system overhaul, at least in some aspects, to get things running. I know in health and all of that, there's a backlog of nurses, even doctors now, that you could quickly feed into the system. But when you talk about financing through cutting down on ministers, yes, you may cut some costs, but let's do the math. If we are looking at even 60 ministers, okay, who are going to not form part of a new administration from the NDC, and you are using those 60 ministers as a sort of benchmark, you multiply the 100,000 you claim. So salary, other perks, allowances, other things that they get. And then you multiply that 100,000 by 12, you get 1.2 million. By 60, you get 72 million Ghana cedis. Will that be enough to get such a program off and running? I wanted to quickly address that before I go to Professor Mensah on the same question.
So not all governmental institutions rely solely on the consolidated fund for salaries. Not all governmental institutions. We have manufacturing companies that work to pay themselves. And so if a steel manufacturing company, let's take Valco, for example, if a steel manufacturing company produces 100 steel a day or 100 sheets a day, if you run a 24-hour system, it means that they will be able to produce 200 or 300 sheets in a day. And so if they produce 200 or 300 sheets in a day and sell those, they'll be able to pay for people who will be working throughout the night if you make it a deliberate policy for them. And so you have, for example, the Minerals Commission, for example, they don't depend on government for salaries. They pay themselves because it's an IPF institution. So if all these institutions are able to work at a double rate, it means that they will be able to get more revenue to pay the people that will be working throughout, those times in this country. And then you add on to the revenue shortfalls I already indicated. There's so much wastage in this country. There are so much leakages in this country, revenue leakages. Government invests in unnecessary things, unnecessary expenditure. Look, presidential suffers, for example, you have more than 1,600 today. President Mahama has said he will run such a reckless system. He would cut down those numbers. More than 600 of people who are presidential suffers today do not do anything like the president. Trust me, many of them are those who come on social media stuff and then engage in unnecessary battles and banters and politics. And so cutting down on that number will also save space to push more people into the manufacturing sector or into the public institutions in this country. And so the main focus is creating jobs whilst ensuring economic growth. So we are just not interested in employing 2,000 or 10,000 people into the system, all because people are unemployed. But our country is at a crossroads, and we need to beef up our economic growth. If we don't, in the next 4 or 5 years, my brother, you and I will have no future again in this country. Can you imagine that a government comes to tell us that the entire system is expected to grow at a paltry 1.5%? That is abysmal in this country. And so we are looking at reducing unemployment rate from the close to 13% to, a minimal of 5% and then even much more downward.
Okay.
And also increase our growth rate and economic growth in this country. So we're able to beef up our GDP figures. And While if our economic weather should look good, I think that goes a long way to affect everybody, both our macro and micro fundamentals in this country.
All right. Malik, we're grateful that you joined us to share your thoughts on this conversation. Malik Basintale is Deputy National Communications Officer of the NDC. We're grateful for your time, sir. Let me now bring in Professor Lord Mensah. What do you think of SAME in terms of the calculation I did based on what Malik mentioned and the prospects, basically? 72 million Ghana cedis. Of course, government may be a future government trying to roll this out, may be able to mop up other funds from there. But let's even assume it's about 100 million Ghana cedis. Is that enough to get this, started running?
Right. So let's not look at it as government absorbing all the expenditure when it comes to, this policy. If you listen to me carefully, my earlier submission, I emphasize on private sector involvement. Government should be ready to create that kind of, conducive environment for private sector to come in. So they can comfortably roll out, this policy. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is that if government runs, a business and it turns out that they reduce, their expenditure as a result of cutting down some ministries or merging some ministries, obviously savings will be made. That alone may not necessarily be enough to, absorb, workers onto, into the night shift or maybe into the 24-hour, service, for them to be paid. But the fact that government has reduced its expenditure, it has a way of building up into interest rate structures because government demand for money goes down. And once government demand for money goes down, it turns up that interest rate structures will come down. And once interest rate structures comes down, obviously the private man access to funds improves. And once private man's access to funds improves and, government, given the position that they don't need much funds, then they reduce possibly taxes, giving tax incentives. That private business should be able to use the proceeds that they were supposed to use to pay taxes and then possibly access to funds as a result of lower interest rate to expand their business. And once they expand the business, it is expected that they will employ, possibly with the incentive that government is giving and conscientizing the business that they can run 24 hours, they should be able to absorb people onto the payroll and engage them off, peak hours. So from where I sit, it is a feasible policy, but depends on how government positions itself. And from the signals I get on the ground, I believe, the whole exercise should be able to, come up, possibly. Because now, if you take industries like the gig industry, it's more or less a 24-hour, kind of job because most of them work on their, computers and other things. And then COVID also came to teach us a lesson that you can work remotely. And if you are working remotely, it means you can work, 24 hours. But it all has to start with the foundation that government will lay. And this foundation should start from security services. And once government is able to provide that 24-hour security, I can assure you that businesses, will fall in making sure that this policy works.
Hold for me, Prof. Let me bring in Dr. Stephen Amwa. He is Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. Doc, thank you for joining the conversation.
For having me on your side.
Hello, Dr. Amwa. Your voice sounds a bit muffled. Let's try this again. Good morning, sir.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's much better. Much better.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. I guess it's the connection that was the problem.
Okay.
So here is what is happening. Former President Mahama, and we're trying to eschew the politics in it. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. But he is suggesting a 24-hour shift, 2 or 3 working shifts operational within the day for different aspects of the economy. And of course, we know that unemployment, that rate right now standing at around 14%, youth unemployment going even higher to about 40%. But there are so many other dynamics to look at. From where you sit, is this a workable plan? Is this something that could bring benefits to Ghana? And how would we go about it?
Thank you very much. My regards to our listeners this very morning. In the first place, it will be very unfair and incorrect for me to draw any inferences or conclude that it's workable or it's not workable when I haven't gotten the details of what he wants to do. So I'll speak generally about the statement. Then when we get the details of it, we can break them into kind of segments and see what exactly they mean. I want to ask this before I just proceed. Is he talking about even private sector doing this shit that he's talking about, or basically there's a public service or public sector he's talking about?
So from what I have gathered, even the private sector will be brought on board with different mechanisms put in place.
If private sector is included, then I really wonder His Excellency former President, respectfully, John Dramani Mahama, the basis. Because, no government on this earth in a democratic dispensation can actually induce any private sector actor to run his company on the basis of shifting or whatever. You can't do that. Totally. Two, already some companies are running shift depending on the workload and then the responsibility framework that they have. So it's something that is being done by most of the private sectors, especially the manufacturing companies. They are doing that. You go to the timber sector, you go to other production where they do the plastics and other things. They do that. You go to even the refinery they are coming to do. They already do that. So I really don't get. I need a full document to talk.
Doc, just briefly, just to clarify, while it has been made mention of, we've spoken about the private sector in here, together with Professor Lord Mensah, Malik, and Collins. It has not been said categorically that private sector will be compelled to do this. But you are fully aware, for those of us who have been in different parts of the world, that when these things are done, it's not just government. Private sector eventually also feeds into it. That's the angling I'm coming from.
Which things are done?
Pardon me?
Which things are done the private sector is also...
I'm saying that in jurisdictions that have multiple working shifts, the private sector is on board, like in the US, like in the UK, like in France. It's not just as though government has certain offices working.
You know something? By the grace of God, I'm not trying to let Ghanaians know what I've done. At least, I started going to UK before I went to university for my childhood. Not childhood as a baby. At least I've schooled in UK, I've schooled in US. Mm-hmm. Let's really understand what is happening. If you are saying public service, you are running shift, with the exception of the security agencies. Mm-hmm. And if probably we have health sector, which is quasi-government or say wholly government, these are basically essential services that normally, no matter what, even Ghana here, they run shift, they do night work. So let's iterate what he's saying in a context that we know that, something innovative, something new is being brought on board. These are the details. These are the benefits. The reasons we are doing that. This is what we are going to derive from. I think we need to. That is why I'm being careful.
Dr. Amwa,
allow me to explain. You call me. Let me explain with my technical understanding a bit. I'm not debating you.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is that let's situate this whole statement in a way that we will know that, we are not doing this and it is wrong. We are doing ABC. We are going to do A, B, and that's why. The reason being this. These are the benefits or pros we are going to get from. This is what I'm talking about, because it still remains very ambiguous statement. Maybe because I haven't had the opportunity to read the entire document. I don't want to rush and make any statement out of arbitrariness because of politics. I don't want to do that. I'm trying to change a whole lot of things in my life as individual. But I am surprised because Ghana here, even the public service that we have, with the exception of the security agencies and the health sector, go to the ministries this morning, whether A or B and C, whether in terms of productivity, even the workload, as against even the employed staff we have,
At the end of the day, each of them, we derive the needed productive work against the working hours that we do and the work we want to derive with respect to the emoluments that we outlay, being about 60 to 70% of internally generated funds. That's why I'm saying that maybe the former president has done some work. He can just demonstrate to Ghanaians clearly that we know where he's charting the path to, because for now, it doesn't look clear. To be honest with you, it doesn't really look clear. And the workload in France and UK and other places, compare that to the workload here. And even the existing state institutions, go and find out whether we can run shifts in the night and the day, and even the existing work going on today, even the 8-hour shift that we do, whether most of them, when you go there actively, they are working. Most of them, which it is not true. You can go and check whether it's under Party A or B, whether it's a critical government or not, with the exception of the purely private sector, the health sector, and then the security, that they can run shift, or they run shift already. And even those you can say actively they work, education sector, being the university, primary school, you see, total productive work being done. Other than that, I don't know exactly what he wants to do. So he should really explain it well to us, or make the documents available to all of us to read it. Then we can honestly, I don't want to do the wishy-washy policies all of us have been doing over the years. Once there's something from an opposition party or government, you just come out and condemn it or praise it. I think we need to have a new paradigm shift. And this is my approach. For now, it doesn't look clear. It doesn't look clear.
All right, Dr. Amor, so I think I understand where you're coming from this standpoint. You didn't join the conversation from the start. If you had, you would have realized that these very points you are making, we've already raised them, even looking at the practicality of running such a system on our economy, on the back of our economy and everything that is happening. What we are trying to do, without even having all the details, we're just trying to find out, is this something, for example, that could work in our interest in terms of bolstering our economy, in terms of unemployment, in terms of changing the parameters of our economy from what we focused on for so long? Those are the angles we were looking at. Overarching practicality of the idea, not necessarily going into the details. But I get the point you're making about
you can get the practicality when you really have the framework design. Because for instance, you're talking about employment. Basically, anywhere in the world, any properly designed economic jurisdiction, employment is at the bare and core of the private sector. But of course, government has to provide conducive environment and framework for the private sector. And ask yourself, once the private sector is expanded and there's more work to be done, nobody will even force the system to run shift. The mere fact that you want to run shift doesn't mean you increase employment. That is not true. Employment to be.
I don't think anyone has said that, Doc. We are just saying we are drawing extrapolations.
You are saying that, boss, we are not debating. I think you call me as an expert to bring my view. If you allow me, I give my view, leave it for yourself and the public to listen. I'm not saying you've said that. You made mention of other things that are needed, which I agree with you. But I am saying that the fact that you want to run shift doesn't mean that you increase employment. But if there is so much work available to be done, nobody will even come and say that I want you to run shift. Because the work that has to be done, you need more hands. And 8 hours is not enough. But I'm saying that the existing practice we are having today in Ghana, with respect to even public sector, people are sitting there, they are not even working. Some of them, yes, they are bad attitude. Some of them, because there is no much to be done. And this is a fact. So what I'm saying is that it's even good for the former president to start thinking outside the box and see if it will work. That one, yes. But let us also ask ourselves as a country, most of the time, whether NGCMP, we come out with policies, we come out with a whole lot of things that we don't sit down and prepare well, do our research well, collect the right data, design the value chain, and understand the system, design the segments, know where we are going with the numbers and everything.
That is true. That is true. I agree with you on that.
We start working. Look at the Sugar Factory. The same thing, I spoke about it, and my own people were attacking me. It was a fantastic thing NDC government did, but they finished, they said raw material. We are in power for 7 years. The same problem is raw material. So what went into the design of the policy framework, the value chain, before we started the whole factory? These are the things that, so maybe the former president might have had an idea which could be properly positioned. But then he has to come let us know that we have enough job opportunities even for people to be employed. If not, if we only do the shit, is it going to do that? That one I'll say no. But if we can develop a framework that will increase and expand private sector and the industry, and there will be more jobs. My brother, former president or present president will not even have to make a statement because people have to work. That is what I'm talking about. That is also, I think they should let us have the framework, the detailed framework that they have so that we can support it or not. I can't say it's a good or bad idea when I haven't read what it said, but the existing practice in Ghana today, I mean, talking about running shifts, especially within the public sector or service, apart from security agencies and the health service, I doubt that would be really, really feasible. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. And then two, if it is the private sector, the onus is on the private sector to decide, depending on the workload they have and how they are expanding. Even now, existing companies that are producing in Ghana, some are winding up. See those who produce the cables. Some of them, the three major ones, yesterday I said it on PM Express. One of them is gone, one operating at 50% capacity. The other one is struggling because imported goods, whether they are substandards or they even meet the standard, they are so cheap because some of them are dodging taxes and other things. So production cost generally is high in Ghana. So we have a lot of fundamental issues that as a country, we need to redefine our corporate focus, and then some of these things can come naturally or organically on board. If we do that, it will help. Rather than maybe when NPP wants to come, we make a whole lot of promises, NDC will make a whole lot of promises, not that they are bad promises, but what goes into the design, the planning, the framework, so that we can put on our chest, we will achieve this, and we can achieve that. This is what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Dr. Amwa. Important points you've made there, and we wish you the best of the day. Dr. Stephen Amwa is Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. Let me come to you, Collins. So we're wrapping up on the conversation, and I'll wrap up with Prof with his final thoughts as well. Looking at the different dynamics, I wanted the conversation to be very general from the outlook of the benefits this could bring to our country. I would like you to deliver your final or your parting shots, but at the same time, there's a statement you made in recent times that this NPP administration has been the best in the Fourth Republic. Would you like sharing why you think that? So quickly on those 2 points.
Well, I listened to my senior brother, Dr. Amwa, and I think he's made some very, very interesting points. And it dovetailed into what I had made, the comment I had made earlier, that indeed we need more details on this policy for us to have an informed discussion about it.
On face value, is it something that is good?
On face value, I mean, if you have an economy that is running 24 hours, just as it's happening in other jurisdictions, that's okay. But as I said, already there are certain institutions that are doing 24 hours. So it is not a novelty. And so we would have loved for him to have, maybe this is just, I mean, the campaign is just starting. So maybe this is just a teaser, and subsequently, probably in the manifesto, they will give us more details as to how they intend to operationalize it. And at that point, I think we can all have a very, very informed discussion about it. On the issue you raised, I think I was on Inshira FM over the weekend, 2 days before the general election, the presidential candidate, and a question about whether the MPP has a message to be delivered to the Ghanaians. Indeed, during the interview, I mentioned 2 sectors. I talked about the road sector, and I talked about our infrastructure and investment in sport and education. And I indicated that on the basis of the records that I have, no other government has invested more in terms of sports, infrastructure and sports than this particular government. No government has built more roads, which is a fact. And so those are the comments that I made. I don't know how it was captured by your website, and I got a lot of calls and all that. But this is exactly what I said, and I still stand by it.
Thanks for the clarity, Collins. Thank you so much. Collins Adomako Mensah is Member of Parliament for Efija Kwabre North. He joined the conversation. Of course, he's also Member of Parliament's Finance Committee. Prof, you have the final word, Professor Lord Mensah.
Yeah, so Yeah, we may have to appreciate the feasibility. And I think from where I sit, I mean, the positioning of the government of the day and the policies they roll out will determine whether it is feasible or not. Let's look at this. Apart from the workload that private sector will look on to decide on running a double shift or 24-hour shift, I mean, there should be also prospect. And what will make the private sector, anticipate, a good business in the future for him to employ more people, I mean, to extent of working in the night. I mean, it has to do with the economic prospect. So once the economy is structured or the economy get to a point where, the private sector sees, I mean, good future, obviously employing, more people to produce, to meet the demand in the future will not be something difficult to do. Another thing will be, I mean, providing incentives. So the government of the day, I mean, will play a major role with this, policy. So we can't look at it and say it is feasible or not. And then it also depends on the industry. Of course, we may also have to look at the locations of the various industries. And we know very well that in the, various, capitals or regions across the country, night activities, goes on, during, the night. So obviously, if you want to roll out, a policy of that sort, you may not struggle, but probably not in a district capital somewhere, or possibly in areas that, they don't have life. So one, I would say, depends on the industry that, the industries that the former president is looking at. Another thing would be how to provide security, to give assurance that if you're going about your business, you are secured, and possibly, the locations of those businesses.
Thank you, Professor Mensah, for having joined this conversation. Professor Lord Mensah is with the University of Ghana Business School. So this has been our conversation, teasing out some aspects of what former President Mahama said about a 24-hour working system with different shifts. What are the little pieces, the cogs in the wheel that will bring about such a project? And it doesn't really matter about which political party. Is it workable? Will it boost our economy? Will it decrease youth unemployment and all of that, or unemployment generally? Those are the matters we're focusing on. And that has been our conversation so far. Well, after we take a break, we're going to be contemplating this aspect of some 150 children of Burkinabe extraction among some asylum seekers who have enrolled in a Ghanaian primary school in the Boku West district of the Upper East region. Now, this is after World Vision had provided some facilities to the schools. We'll be expanding the conversation here on the AM show.
In the last 2 years, hundreds of asylum seekers from Burkina Faso have trooped into Ghana's Upper East region due to frequent attacks on their communities by armed insurgent militant groups. The Boku West and Pusiga districts are the areas where most of these asylum seekers have sought shelter. At Tarikum, near Zebila in the Boku West district, hundreds of them are being sheltered in this refugee reception center set up by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR. The presence of these asylum seekers here also means that their children have had to be enrolled in school. At the Tarikum Primary School, 129 children of the asylum seekers have been enrolled from the kindergarten level up to basic 3. According to the headmistress of the school, Zinabu Alambila, this has shot up the school's total enrollment to 436 pupils, and with challenges such as lack of access to drinking water in the school, it has become a little more challenging to manage the children.
So the asylum seekers, first of all, came in through the UNHCR, Nabokado, and CRS. They came here and did some work for us by renovating our school, preparing our minds that they are to bring asylum seekers to come and join us. And for how they are faring, I can say that they are doing very well. They are coping. Most of them can write well. Most of them, though we have a challenge in communication because most of them speak Moshi, aside that, we are relating well with them.
Relief, Development and Advocacy NGO, World Vision Ghana, has constructed an 8-seater toilet facility for the Tarikom Primary School. The organization also donated some shoes of various sizes to be distributed to the school children.
So over the period, World Vision has been the lead partner for wash intervention in the schools and also at the reception center. In the schools, we have been responsible for the construction of 8-seater unit toilet facility for boys and girls. Today we came here to make some donations of shoes of various sizes to the children in this school because we also believe that this will go a very long way to support teaching and learning in the school.
Although the toilet facility provided by World Vision has been equipped with water reservoirs, there is no source of water supply except for any time it rains during the rainy season. The headmistress of the school, therefore, appealed for a mechanized borehole.
But now our greatest challenge is water. Our water is a little bit away from us. And so you have KG children going across the road, which is very dangerous just to drink water. So we are appealing to World Vision to support us get a mechanized borehole in our premises here so that it will take away that danger of the children crossing the road to drink water.
So that has been the work of World Vision. Let's get more on the scoop from Samuel Gbalu, Humanitarian and Emergency Affairs Manager with World Vision Ghana. Samuel, good morning.
2 years.
Okay, so Samuel, you would have to unmute so we can hear you.
Sorry. Good morning.
Very good morning to you, Samuel.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining the conversation. So I just wanted the scoop on what exactly World Vision has been up to. We've just showed the video to our viewers, but how did all of this start and how did it culminate in what we're seeing now with all of these students in these schools?
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning to you once again and to our cherished listeners this morning. Yeah, just as the story highlighted, we had, due to the disturbances in Burkina Faso, we had the Burkina Bay people, moving to Ghana to seek for asylum. And so, as by international practice, UNHCR, who is a lead agency of the UN for refugees, mobilized them and then opened a camp in the Tarakum in the Upper East region. And as per international practice, World Vision was invited as a partner to work with UNHCR and then other partners on board. And for World Vision, our major area was supposed to be water, hygiene, and then sanitation. And so you realize that the toilet facility that has been provided to the school falls under that sector, that is water, hygiene, and sanitation sector. And so it became one of the assessments were done in the community to look at with the capacity of the existing facilities to see whether they will be able to accommodate the children, additional children that were needed in this school. And so what happened was when we look at the facility, you see that the school block was in a dilapidated condition. The toilet facility that was in that school was totally out of use. And then so what happened was the CRS came in to take over the renovation of the school. And then World Vision, working in the sanitation and hygiene area, took over the rehabilitation of the toilet facility. And that is how we came to where we are in terms of the toilet facility. There are other things that are being done in the health facility as well. World Vision is doing some renovation works as well in the Chips compound to also improve on the health facility for both the asylum seekers and then also the community people.
What has this immersion been like? Because, of course, they are Burkinabes, they've come into the country, they will have to integrate the children. What, from where you sit, has the integration been like since they've been in Ghana?
Yeah, it's not been easy. It's taken some time. It took us some time. They've been here for almost 2 years now. And then the camp has also been in existence since I think the beginning of towards the end of March, May, where the camp had been in existence. So there were discussions looking at how these children were actually going to be integrated. And as the teacher rightly said, language barrier was one. How do we get them to? Some of them are also of age. They've grown past certain levels of schooling. And so at a point, we have to just take those bold decisions with Ghana Education Service to see how they can be integrated. So actually, taking them on board hasn't been that easy. And I think that a lot will have to be done to really help them to be able to integrate properly in terms of the levels of education that they will have to go through. Because there will be a lot of things to be done, probably extra teaching probably have to be done in the camp and other areas to make sure that they are able to catch up with their Ghanaian counterparts.
So it's been some 2 years now. Obviously, not all of them came around the same or at the same time, but these are they would largely speak their local dialects and French. And so they would have had to integrate, into the Ghanaian system. But what would you say has been the level of urgency with which they have been treated? Because if it's 2 years down the road and we're still struggling with this, then where are the missing pieces that we need to bring to bear?
Yeah, I think the initial, what caused the initial delays was actually, like we said, they were coming in trickles. And, these were not adequate numbers to be able to, institute a response to quickly look at. So these were like, as it started, it was like some people coming in, going back. They were not actually staying in Ghana. They come in as and when there is a disturbance. Then sometimes 2 or 3 days they get back. So until a point where a number of them started housing themselves in the communities along the borders. And that was where government took a decision that, no, looking at the numbers now, it is important, in collaboration with the UNHCR, to quickly do some registration and move them to the camp setting. And as I said, you see that the camp setting the camp actually started somewhere in May. Immediately after that, one of the pragmatic steps that were taken was to quickly get them some space of learning. So they actually started learning at the camp. If you get to the camp there was some temporary structure that was constructed where they were given some being engaged so that they don't roam about, being engaged to take on some learning and prepare them to be able to integrate into the main school system. And don't forget, some of them also went through some trauma and all that. So all these things were done along to ensure that they are adequately stabilized to be ready for school. And I think that it hasn't been too late as such for me. I think it's still, all we need done is to make sure that more resources are provided to help them to adequately integrate into the system and move on with their learning.
In terms of impact, obviously, if they are here, it is because the circumstances on the other side would not have favored them. Of course, we know what has happened in Burkina Faso. But in terms of the impact all of this, the humanitarian efforts and everything have had on these people, what would you peg it at? How has this impacted their lives?
Very heavy and negative. It's not been easy. If you really see, most of them lost a lot of property. Just been there, and all of a sudden you have to migrate from your village, your community into another environment without knowing what is ahead of you. And even if you come to, see the tent, having to leave maybe a very comfortable house that you had, and to be under such conditions, I don't think it's something that somebody will take it lightly. That it's normal. It's not a normal situation. And apart from that, like I told you earlier on, some of them lost their loved ones, some of them lost their husbands, especially men, to the attacks of these jihadists. And so, having lost your breadwinner and coming only with the children, even some children came with our parents. You see that this is, of course, very traumatizing. And to get over this, like I said, it requires a lot of efforts. But I think one of the things that we are seeing in them now is that life is beginning to return to normal and they are being housed. But I can see that the impact is quite heavy and really something that demands a lot of effort to get them back to their normal feet and to be able to integrate them well into the Ghanaian society.
In terms of government's work and all of this, what has it been like, the efforts as far as our government is concerned?
Good collaboration. I think that UNHCR is actually working in collaboration with the Ghana Refugee Board. And then in the Upper East region, presently where we are also working in collaboration with the local government stakeholders like the district, the municipal chief executive for Boku West. We also working with the regional minister. And then I think they are all very interested. In fact, there have been a number of times that the regional minister has paid visits to the camp to see their conditions of their service, how they are living, and all other things that they think they can do to improve their stay, even including security. Adequate security is provided, and lighting and all that to ensure that at least they are more comfortable in where they live. So I think there's been a good collaboration from the side of government to make sure that these people are well treated and well received in our community.
Finally, Samuel, I'd like to find out, so we've made some gains. Of course, there have been some losses. What next? What is the way forward? What can we expect from World Vision as far as these brothers and sisters are concerned to make their lives even better?
Yeah, so for World Vision, we intend to, one, expand our partnership. We're currently collaborating with UNHCR and working on WASH. We are also collaborating with the World Food Program, also in providing cash assistance to some of the host communities, and which will soon be extended to the refugee households as well. So we are looking at extending our collaborations with other partners to ensure especially the well-being of the children, because our focus is more on children. And in your video, there was an issue, the desperate call for water being connected to the school. It's one of the things that we are looking at. There are a number of boreholes in the communities. One of the things that we are asking our technical team to do was to do an assessment on the yields of the boreholes. If they can be mechanized, then we mechanize them for the school and then also the health facility. If it cannot be done, then we also look at probably drilling a new borehole and then getting it mechanized for the school. And apart from that, we're also looking at, as I said, working with other partners and getting them very good teaching and learning materials. And just as we also supply them with the shoes and other things that they needed to make their stay comfortable. So we want to deepen our collaboration with both government and other UN partners to ensure that we give these refugees and their children a better living.
Thank you, Samuel, so much for joining the conversation. We're grateful for the how you've broadened the issues and shed light on the matters. Samuel Malu is a humanitarian and emergency affairs manager with World Vision Ghana. Thank you so much, sir. And that has been our conversation on that beat. We'll be bringing you a lot more coming up shortly on the AM show.
Thank you.
Hello there, welcome back. If you've not heard yet about the Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair, you're missing out. It's in its 14th installment. That should tell you that there's something really good we've been doing, and we're back this month with same at the Accra International Conference Center. Now, as part of that, we're having some of our sponsors and those who are going to be sharing their products with you coming through the studio. And that's why today we're hosting Virtual Security Africa, one of the sponsors for this year's EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. We're going to be telling you about what products they have and what discounts they're going to be giving you on D-Day. Joining us in the studio, we have Esther Abuajiwa. Let me just get to this. So we have Esther Abuajiwa, Sales, Marketing and Communication, Virtual Security Africa. Good morning, Esther.
Good morning, Ben.
Good to have you again.
Good to have you here.
All right. So Virtual Security Africa, we've had you a number of times. You've told us some interesting things. I'd like you to just go back and tell us what Virtual Security Africa is all about.
Good morning to your viewers. Virtual Security Africa, it's a wholly owned Ghanaian company that has been in the security industry, electronic security industry, for a solid 15 years, providing top-notch security solutions to our clients. And we have a wide range of products, ranging from perimeter detection, intrusion detection, and to surveillance systems. So with this, basically, we are talking about the sales and installation of CCTV, fire alarm, intruder alarm, access control, time and attendant, vehicle boom barriers, body scanners, like anything physical security, electronic, that you will need in your home, your office, your warehouse, your church, your office, like anywhere. That is what you do. So we are mainly into the sales and installation of these security products. Yeah.
You mentioned something. What's it? A vehicle day.
Boom barriers. Yes.
What are those?
Okay, so those are, you see, when you enter bigger facilities, and then especially at the entrance, the security entrance, you see that bar, big bar that we have, we regulate it to. It goes up for the cars, the vehicles to enter, and then it comes down back. That's what we call the vehicle boom barriers. It's an access control device. So it doesn't, if you are not supposed to enter that premise, you'll be at the back. If the boom barrier hasn't been raised for you, you can't enter. So that's an access control.
That fancy name.
Yes, vehicle boom barrier. Yes, yeah.
I see. Okay, next time I go to one of those places, I'll know that this is a VBB.
Yeah.
A vehicle boom
barrier. I like the abbreviation. It's nice.
I abbreviated.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about the key features of some of your products.
Okay.
Yes, there are these cameras, among other equipment, that you could find in different places. Yeah. What are the key features of your product from Virtual Security Africa?
Thank you very much for this question. This is where I get to educate the general public on the reason why they have to come to Virtual Security. So we have the cameras, the alarms that I talked about. And you see our cameras, we have features like the real-time, remote control, remote viewing, we have facial recognition and other things that some other products on the market also do have. But the reason why people should choose Virtual Security Africa is this. If you are buying our products, you are buying peace of mind. Peace of mind in the sense that we are NDAA compliant. I want to break this down. So NDAA is National Defense Authorization Act. As a set of federal laws that is passed in the United States. And then a section of this act, that is section 889 of this act, forbids some of these security products that we have on the market from entering the United States. And they are even forbidden from contracting and subcontraction.
Why?
Because some of these products have been found to have inbuilt high silicon chipsets. They are inbuilt in the cameras. So if you are using them, it sort of gives it makes it backdoor accessible. Okay. So backdoor accessible,
so
yes. It's a prime target for hacking and hackers. And some of these products, I can't mention names here. They are a lot on Ghanaian market. Get it? So you thinking that you are buying a CCTV to do your physical monitoring for you, somebody somewhere can have access because of these high silicon chipsets that are inbuilt in the cameras.
So you're saying your products
Our products
are
don't
free from
have,
those.
yes. And that is why we are NDAA compliant. So the rest on the market that are not compliant, it means that those products are prone to hacking. So if you are buying from us, we are NDAA compliant, meaning that our products have gone through scrutiny and they don't have these chipsets. So if you are buying from us, you are buying peace of mind.
Okay, so I'll just say that if you want, they say, who watches the watchman?
The watchman, yes.
So if you don't want to be monitored, when you are trying to monitor,
you get
just you know what to go for. Are there any discounts that you have on offer? Because while you're offering all this quality, you know, Ghana, New York, people are still looking at the local fuel.
Yes.
This year, when we meet at the Accra International Conference Center, are you going to be offering discounts to
of course. We've always given our clients amazing discounts. Yes. And if you can recall from the first, second, and third clinics that we had, we mentioned on TV and radio that we were giving discounts, and it's true. The customers that we had from the previous clinics, we are doing installations and others for people, and they're enjoying the discount. So we have amazing discounts for this main fair. Okay. And as part of our 15th year celebration, we are giving back to society. I say this all the time because not every company does this. We are giving free devices. If you purchase...
Did I just hear free?
Yes, free.
Free devices.
Free devices. The device that we are giving to you for free, and we'll even install it for you.
Okay.
So if you buy a CCTV package, we have them in basic, standard, premium, 4-channel, 8-channel, 16-channel. So if you buy any of the package, being it 4, 8, 16, we are giving you a free video intercom or a free GSM alarm. And it's not like we are giving you the device to install on your own. As we are doing the installation of the CCTV for you, we are installing the free one as well. So you are getting free product plus free installation.
Do you get maintenance on the free product?
Oh yes, so we have
after service.
Yes, so we have after sales support, and it is lifetime, meaning that we are going through with you till the end. And the most exciting part of this after sales support is we are giving you 6 months for free. So the first 6 months after installation, after sales support is free.
Okay.
And we have flexible payment plan as well. So someone can pay all outright for the installation to be done. So we are giving you, you are paying a percentage, a down payment for installation to commence. And after installation, we can spread it up to 3 months. So you make a percentage down payment, and then the rest of the money we will spread it up for up to 3 months. That is a good deal.
It does sound like
yes,
a good deal.
It's a good deal.
I would like you to tell us about where we can locate you, where we can find you at the fair, your numbers and website. But before that, I just had to sneak this in. Since you guys are all into security, is there any tip you could leave us with before you go? Maybe a security tip for everyone out there, something we should look out for.
Okay. All right. So the security tip I have for you from Virtual Security Africa is, 1, make sure that you have secured your perimeter with security solutions that work, not just any security solution, but security solutions that work, like the CCTVs, the fire alarm, the intruder alarm, the electric fence, and all that. So you come to us, we'll help you with that. And also, you make sure that you are monitoring your environment. You have to be conscious of your environment, the people you live with. So you make sure you create cordial relationship with your neighbors, so that if you are not around, the other person can be watching out for you. You also be watching out for the person.
Or even if you're around and someone sees something,
you get it.
They can
see something,
reach
say
out
something.
To you and say, hey,
yes,
something is happening around you.
Yes, yes. And then you also make sure you don't share your security passwords and passcodes with anybody. It is yours. It is secret. It is for you alone.
All right, important tips. We all must stay safe, and those are some of the things we must do. Finally, where can we locate you?
Okay,
phone numbers,
so
website.
we are in Accra, we are in Kumasi, we are in Takoradi. So in Accra, you can find us in our main office at Tesano, behind Alive Chapel. And our ultra-modern showroom is at Jolu, opposite UBA, first floor, Nana Depa Plaza. In Kumasi, you can find us at Santasi Runabout. We are directly opposite the Golf Lane Station. And in Takoradi, we are off the Kintampo Road. We are very close to Toyota Ghana Limited. So our website is www.virtualsecurityafrica.com. You can find us on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Twitter is now X, Threads, and LinkedIn at Virtual Security Africa. You can call us on 055-874-0764, 055-874-0764.
Well, thank you very much. Someone said recently that, it would have been better to stick to Twitter because this makes you remember your ex.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, Esther Abwajiwa is Sales Marketing and Communication Officer with Virtual Security Africa. She joined us. You want to go by their stall come D-Day at the Accra International Conference Center. It's going to be a multiple-day event, 3-day event. You want to be a part of that. Stay with us, because after the break, we'll also be interacting with officials of Tino Solutions Limited. What do they have on offer? We'll be telling you after the break. Welcome back on the AM show. Now, with more than 13 years in the renewable solar energy industry, the company we're about to have a discussion with, of course, their executives here, have served more than 900 plus customers and counting in Ghana and some parts of West Africa, particularly Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and Liberia, with varied solar system capacities for homes, warehouses, hotels, hospitals, different organizations, off-site projects, government projects, farms, and more. And that's why this morning we have a discussion with Tino Solutions Limited. Their representatives in the studio with us. Emmanuel Paddy is Operations Manager, Tino Solutions Limited. Mr. Paddy, good morning. We also have Solal Stephanie, Director, Research and Innovation Department, Tino Solutions Limited. Good morning, Solal. It's the first time encountering the name Solal, and I love it. What does your name mean? I'm putting you on the spot, but...
Not worry.
Do not worry.
Yeah.
Oh, that's reassuring.
Oh, yeah.
Very reassuring. So don't worry. They've got you covered when it comes to solar and everything in between. But for the two of you, tell us a bit about Tino Solutions. What is Tino Solutions? How long have you been around? What do you do? I'll start with you, Emmanuel.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So Tino Solutions is a renewable energy company. It started in 2005 with internet and network services provision for clients, and then evolved from 2010, thereabouts, up till now, into providing solar solutions. We have two separate divisions. One is the wholesale division, where we do sales of our solar products, a wide range of solar products to the Ghanaian and, let's say, apart from Ghana, to the West African market.
Like some of the countries we mentioned. Liberia,
yes.
Cote d'Ivoire.
Exactly. Right. And then apart from the sales division, the wholesale division, we do project management. So we do the engineering, the installation, commissioning, operation and maintenance, after sales support and all that of solar installations, solar solutions in country and then out. The solar systems, some of them, depending on the needs of the client, they can be backup systems. That would be just an inverter and a battery. It could be a hybrid system where solar panels are added, and then it could be a grid-tied solution, usually for the commercial and industrial setups, where it's the solar panels and then the inverters only. So they benefit mainly during the day. So I think that's
so when you mention the hybrid systems, I know there are businesses, even homes, where they are on the electricity grid, but they also add solar, or they have other alternative means. Do you work on those as well?
Exactly. So for the residentials, it's the battery is available, the solar panels is available, the grid is available, where depending on the various sources that are available, we can have separate mixes. So it can be daytime, you can get power directly from the solar panels, and then in the evenings when the sun is down, so the batteries would have been charged, and then you drain from the batteries. If the batteries also run down, you are able to drain from the national grid any excess you will need.
Let me come to Solal now. So give us a bit of an overview in terms of Tino Solutions and what you have to offer. Now there's the renewable energy mix that people are looking at. What solutions do you proffer in that regard?
Yes, as Mr. Emmanuel just said, we do provide solar installations to we work with commercial buildings. And so far, I think we've powered a little above 20 megawatts
wow.
in Ghana and other countries. So yeah, I think the Ghana's master plan, energy master plan, was to, I think, get 1,363 megawatts. So I mean, I think adding 20 megawatts of renewable energy is not so bad for our company.
Mm. In terms of motivation, what has it been, and what is the mission of Tino Solutions in this regard, Solan?
So the motivation, I mean, as you said earlier, we started in 2005 as an IT company. So, I mean, it was based on demand. As an IT person, we needed reliable power. So we started with battery systems. And then, I mean, after some time, we were like, okay, let's add some panels and everything. So that's how we went into solar. So the mission of Tino Solution is to provide reliable and sustainable renewable energy solutions for Ghana and West Africa in a whole. Yeah.
In terms of impact, Emmanuel, what would you say has been the impact of Tino Solutions over these last 13 years, especially in terms of renewable energy?
I would say Tino Solutions has had a very positive impact in the markets, residential, commercial, industrial setups. We have provided reliable power and affordable power to our clients, empowered companies or businesses who buy solar products from us. I mean, we are giving them business to be able to purchase from us. We have direct, because we have direct contact with the suppliers. It's a big business opportunity for us, creating businesses in and around the countries. Yeah.
Now, we know that the solar landscape is rapidly evolving. There are so many changes. Things are becoming technologically better and all of that. How has Tino Solutions innovated to ensure that you have maintained your market niche? What are you doing? What innovations have you brought to bear?
So, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be here if we are not interested in innovation. So yeah, innovation is like at the core of our business.
Right.
So we are always researching on new technologies, and we work with the best manufacturers on the market. I think I can mention some of them. We have Victron, Fronius, Huawei, and many others. So those are like, I mean, the best on the solar market right now. So yeah, we work with them, and we also offer after-sales support and review to collect some data on the impression of the customers, so how best we can improve.
Are there any projects you've commissioned? Since you're working with all of these partners, of course, people would want to know which major projects have you commissioned in that regard? Who wants to bite at that?
Oh, okay. So there are a lot of projects we've done from large solar farms to relatively
solar farms. You've actually
solar, yeah, and then to small, relatively small installations for residences. But they are usually we get projects based on referrals.
Okay.
I would use, let's say, a recent project we did for Absa Bank as a reference. We did some 10 ATM offsite solar solutions for them. They are completely off-grid, and that's like 24 kilowatts peak. Yeah, about 22.2 kilowatts peak. And then based on that, I mean, how effective the system was with remote monitoring capabilities. It's so open and transparent that everybody from our side, from the client side, is able to see the performance. They've given us the go-ahead to do some 54 more sites, which we are starting next week. So that's more than 200 kilowatts peak of solar installation. So that's to say, if the solar installations are done right, we get more business and yeah, our clients are happy, and we are also happy.
In terms of reaching out, even today, electrification across Ghana still has quite a long way to go, especially in the rural areas. If you look at urban electrification and rural electrification, there is a gap. Have you worked with any of these communities? What have been the outcomes that you could share, Solal?
I mean, we are aware that there are communities that do not have access to electricity. So for these communities, we have some kits. We provide some kits which are very affordable and at a very low cost. So those kits are still, being sold currently in our shops. So those are they come with TVs, fan, radio, torchlight, and the basics for electricity, lighting, of course. And we sell them to rural communities at a very low cost so that everybody could afford it. And we also train installers all over Ghana, of course, and especially in those communities.
There's also the bit about environmental sustainability, waste generation, waste is produced, how you deal with it, and all of that. Tino Solutions has been addressing this in different ways. Can you share some of your solutions with us? Emmanuel?
Yeah, okay. So because of the products we deal with, and the space in which we are, it's renewable, sustainable energy and all that, we are very mindful of making sure that we don't contribute to environmental degradation in any way. So we have partnered with some EPA certified companies, that's Environmental Protection Agency certified companies, to take our waste, such wastes.
All right, so I'll come to you, Solal, as well, on the same beat. What are some of the things that you've been doing in that regard?
Yeah, we work with recycling companies. So one of them is City Waste. So they help us recycle.
Is this a Ghanaian entity?
Yeah, it's a Ghanaian company. So we are always open to any recycling company that will be interested in, taking our waste and dispose it for us. Yeah.
There is also that global push for sustainable energy everywhere. Everyone is looking for cheaper, more efficient, forms of energy. And with everything that's going on in our world, oil and its pricing, everyone is looking for such cheaper solutions. What then is the way forward? What are some of the things that we can expect from Tino Solutions moving forward in that regard? You've already started solar, but there are other things in there. Are you expanding? Are you looking at going into the other fray as well? I'll start with you, Solal, this time.
So one of our vision, one of our objective is maybe a solar farm one day.
Okay.
But that's a whole process that we're coming on. So yeah, we will definitely expand, that's for sure. So
okay. You'll definitely expand.
Yeah, expand, yeah.
What more would you add on that?
Yeah, so adding to what she's saying, the plan is to be within not just Ghana, but within the West African and African region. So we are making sure that we are on top, using the top brands. We're working with the top brands and being innovative and doing a lot of research to make sure that we are still competitive in the market, providing working with financial institutions that provide, let's say, solutions to reduce or sometimes, let's say, prevent initial payments. So there's a payments plan and all that. We have such institutions we work with which make, let's say, business easier for our clients. Yeah.
Right. And I get where you're coming from because honestly, purchasing solar panels and the batteries, they don't come dirt cheap. They come at a certain cost. But of course, it also depends on the quality of the product and all of that and how many megawatts or whatever the package is. But at the same time, people must be able to get on board because we're all looking at the green energy space. So it is interesting to know that you are collaborating with all of these financial outfits so that it's easier for businesses and maybe even individuals to come on board. But for people who may want to contact Tino Solutions, do you have a website? Are you on social media? How can people reach out to you? Salah?
So we have our website, www.tinosolutions.com.
www.tinosolutions.com. That is T-I-N-O.
Yes, okay. Solutions with the S.
All right, solutions with an S.
Yes, .com. And Mr. Emmanuel will give us the contact.
On social media, we are Tino Solutions, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you want to contact us, 0544 999985. And then we'll be able to provide you whatever service you would.
All right. Any final words, Emmanuel? And Salah?
So I think regarding, we'll be exhibiting at the Habitat Fair.
Okay.
Coming up the next few weeks. So we are inviting all to participate. We will be the renewable energy company that will be there.
Look forward to seeing them there. They are the renewable energy company. They are the only ones on board coming with these packages. You want to reach out to them on D-Day. Solal, to wrap, are you giving any discounts on that day?
Possibly, yeah. We're actually running a promo, end of year promo that started on the 1st of November.
Okay.
So, come and get your discounted price.
Okay, so come aboard and benefit from the solutions provided by Tino Solutions. Those who joined us for this conversation, Emmanuel Paddy is Operations Manager, Tino Solutions Limited. And we also had Solal Stephanie, Director of Research and Innovation Department, Tino Solutions Limited. Make a date with us and come to the Accra International Conference Center. Of course, that is where you'll get to benefit from all these packages between the 23rd and the 26th days of November. But hey, stay with us. We still have a little more action coming your way right before we wrap it up. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show, but that welcome is only to say goodbye to you. It's been quite a day, some 4 hours we've been coming your way with myriad issues. Look forward to tomorrow on the AM show. We'll still have quite the package for you. It's what we do. And let's keep it Ubuntu. We are because you are. We love you. Stay with us though on this channel because up next there's Aisha Ibrahim with Joy News Desk. You want to stay for that. Good morning.